Cats, the defending champions, come within 4.
And you see again, Georgia Tech playing a very passive game. They can't buy a bat.
Rice gets his own rebound.
You know who's tightening up here, don't you? I mean, Villanova's got the feeling they can come back.
That's a good point, Billy. They have won the championship with 6 tough games against tough opponents last year. They're used to this.
You see, and there's a lot of time with a 45-second shot clock. You can't delay the game like this.
Georgia Tech has continued that lead except for one moment. 22-21 was Villanova's only lead in this game. 17 on the shot clock. Sally, he has really been no use offensively except on second chance points.
That might have been a walk.
It was.
Chance to get it to 2. As you can see, the Georgia Tech players are just tightening up. They had this game buried away.
Well, people have said, Bobby Cremins off on his feet, people have said the big loss to Georgetown made this team. They had a lot more to prove. 18 turnovers in the game. Trying to cut it to 2 with 3:34 and running.
You want Presley to touch the ball. There he is.
Presley touches it and scores it. And it's a 2-point game, 57-55 with 3:25 remaining. To 2 dramatic points by Villanova with 3:24 remaining. Georgia Tech has gone 8.5 minutes without a basket. You look at the timeout story. Neither team is in the bonus right now. Here's the foul story with West of Villanova, the only player with 4. And we talked at halftime, Billy, about when Rolly Massimino says, I'm going to play to win, as the possession arrow favors Georgia Tech. But the question is, Bobby Cremins had a decision to make as well.
Yeah, and what he chose to do was to play not to lose. I think that Bobby Cremins was in a position to open the game up and aggressively go inside, build up fouls, and instead they got passive, and that gave Villanova the confidence they needed. Now, Villanova doesn't press this time. Here's DePaul down to 1. Well, I tell you, the NCAA tournament is something else.
Heating up only in the second round.
A lot of time left in this game. 3:16. If Villanova ever gets the lead, you can imagine the confidence they're going to have.
Using the clock will be an understatement then. Georgia Tech has missed its last 8 shots. They have 27, plenty of time going right now with 3:03 on the green clock.
And not only have they missed them, you remember how they were getting so many second chance baskets. When they were going aggressively to the basket, they had a lot of guys rebounding. Now being passive, they've spread out.
Sally was the man they wanted to go to. He scored 8 points. Price misses. Farrell wins the fight over West. Blocked by Presley.
Oh, that looked like a good block.
Presley got his hands on it. The question is, did he get his body on him as well?
Oh, I think that was a good block.
3 on Presley, 17 foul. Let's take another look.
Well, they're going to live and die on Price's jumper. Farrell goes to get the weak side rebounding position. Does a good job with it. Gets the rebound. Now here he goes up. Boy, that looked like a good block to me.
If anything, Sally away from the hoop. Oh, that's a big basket. 10 points for Sally, who largely has been missing offensively for Georgia Tech today. Up to 4 again. You watch the clock. 1:35 and running. 61-57. Georgia Tech leading.
Big possession here for Villanova. They've got to get off a good shot.
Jensen hasn't been hot outside. Normally they count on his range.
But this freshman's got ice in his veins.
West misses, and Sally the rebound, and the foul called against Villanova. And that will be the 4th foul on Mark Plansky. And they'll shoot
personal. We're in the bonus.
Well, nobody knows how to run the clock like Raleigh does either in regard to when he's got to work out this last minute and 22 seconds. He'll foul. He'll put guys on the foul line. He'll be calling timeouts. He'll be doing everything he can.
When you're behind, the name of the game is stop the clock every chance.
That was the best thing Clancy could do. And they put Sally on the line, and not particularly a good free throw shooter.
Georgia Tech, though, 21 of 24 from the strike.
That's long. Not even close.
Plansky the rebound. Villanova down by 4. Georgia Tech holding on for dear life with 1:15 to go. Wilson.
Good penetration.
The freshmen on this team don't mind shooting in clutch moments, do they?
And he commits a foul. It's a 2-shot foul.
2-shot foul.
Deliberate foul called against Kenny Wilson of Villanova. And Rowley says, what are you doing?
Well, Wilson, there's where the freshmen are different than the seniors. You know, you don't want the 2-shot. If you want to reach in there and commit the foul, go aggressively after the ball. You can knock a guy on the floor if you're aggressively going for the ball. But if you just reach around, have a touch foul, reach in the body, it's 2. Dalrymple going to the line.
Dalrymple is not a good free throw shooter compared to some of the others. He's 65%.
Tell you what, though, Vic, it's a lot easier making the front end of 2 than it is the front end of 1-on-1, and that's the difference on that particular call.
Dalrymple has scored 7 points. 3 are in double figures for Georgia Tech, led by Price's 18.
Front
He
of the
makes
rim,
1 out of 2.
Puts it on the odd number, though. Means 3 possessions that Villanova needs.
1 minute to go.
Tough shot by Jensen.
West is battling for the loose ball. Farrell comes out. Jensen has just had a rough day.
Wide open down the other end of the court.
And it's Villanova ball. Last touch by Price, and you got to credit Presley for making that happen there. Going after a ball like a hawk. Jensen is 2 for 9.
Georgia Tech doing a good job getting up on those defensive boards. Jensen had to force that shot.
Harold Jensen not with the sharpshooting eye today. Plansky fires from the corner short.
Hit the back.
And it goes over. It'll be Georgia Tech ball. Plansky and Jensen.
Now here's
not connected today, but what now?
Here's where Georgia Tech ought to think about going long and trying to get an easy basket.
Hammonds is the only one gone down court, and not with a lot of gusto. Dalrymple
picked up his dribble.
Price.
Of course, Georgia Tech wants to have the ball in Price's hands the rest of the way.
40 seconds. Foul anybody but Price the way things are.
And Villanova realizes that, but he doesn't want to give up the ball.
Dalrymple.
That's 2.
2-shot foul against Plansky, and he's out of the game. 5 fouls on Mark Plansky, and he will go out having scored 2 points in the ballgame.
Bruce Dalrymple again will have an opportunity for 2. Plansky obviously not going for the ball, just trying to stop Dalrymple from using any time on that clock.
So Plansky goes out.
And here you can see, Dick, as Georgia Tech gets aggressive, then it goes back their way. It's just a matter that they became passive. They gave Villanova the confidence they needed. Georgia Tech may learn a big lesson out of this ball game. Just the feeling of momentum. They had it. They were ready to bury their opponent, and then they let them come back.
And such a tough team to play style-wise.
It really is.
DePaul leading Oklahoma 72-67. The Blue Demons are clinging to that lead over the Sooners as Dalrymple goes to the line. 32 seconds remaining. 62-57.
Again, the front end of 2. So much easier than that 1-and-1. Plus the other thing, if you make that first one, you start to get yourself in a little rhythm.
So the defending national champions are 32 seconds away from being ousted from this year's title drive. Dalrymple hits both free throws. 9 points, 9 rebounds.
Wilson's got to put him up quick. And if you're Georgia Tech, you don't want to foul.
Loose ball. There's Wilson coming in, and a timeout called by Villanova with 23. Timeout, 64-59.
You knew Raleigh Massimino had used all the weapons.
23 seconds to go, and there'll be a lot of clock stoppages as long as Villanova hangs in there. It'll be Georgia Tech ball, and Raleigh Massimino pulling out all the stops here with 23 seconds to go, trying to stay alive for just one more chance. The odds are against him right now, but how many times have people have said that about Raleigh's Villanova Wildcats?
Well, what he's going to do, obviously, use all the timeouts that he can use. He's going to foul immediately to stop the clock, hoping to keep the ball out of Mark Price's hands as much as possible. Kind of surprised they're not double-teaming Price in the inbounds pass to make sure he doesn't touch it.
He's got it, and he's fouled. Wilson, 1-and-1 with 22 seconds.
There's the case I was talking about. Wilson, as quick as he is, if he'd have had double-team help there, might have had an opportunity to pass it to anybody but Mark Price.
Georgia Tech led by 10 at the half and raised it up to 18 points before Villanova came back on a big drive. Cut it to 2, 57-55 with 3:24 to go. Then it was 59-57, but Georgia Tech has pulled away. Price now 9 of 11 from the line.
Excellent free throw shooter. There was a story this year about him. He missed that shot that Carolina game down at Georgia Tech, and then he and Larry Bird happened to meet each other at a show. Larry Bird shook his hands. Bird went into a slump in the foul line. Mark Price got hot. Bird said, "I'm never going to shake the kid's hand again."
And Bird won't either. Wilson going in, missing. Presley is there.
Oh, nice shot. Didn't go.
But West is there, and West scores with 10 seconds to go, and another Villanova timeout. Stopping the clock again. One more timeout left for Rolly Massimino. It's 66-61. And right now, let's bring you up to date on some of the scores in this NCAA second round action. DePaul in the second half still leading Oklahoma 73-69. That's in the East region in Greensboro, North Carolina. Michigan State defeats Georgetown 80-68. Another Big East team going down to defeat. Syracuse beat Brown yesterday, and St. John's won. Kansas over Temple 65-43. So Kansas will tangle with Michigan State. When they move out to Kansas City, Duke defeats Old Dominion 89-61. Johnny Dawkins 25 for the #1 seeded team in the tournament. Louisville over Bradley 82-68. Louisville will play the winner of North Carolina UAB. And in a dramatic game that Billy and I had the pleasure of describing earlier, LSU beat Memphis State 83-81, and Dale Brown's Tigers move on to Atlanta to play the winner of this game. And right now, Georgia Tech leads by 5.
Well, Georgia Tech can remember their Maryland game in the ACC tournament where they stole the inbounds pass. Obviously, what you want to do here is get that ball inbounds somehow.
And the foul, Presley fouls Dalrymple, and that's 4 on Harold Presley, and at least they didn't foul Mark Price.
That's right. They fouled the man they wanted, and 2 seconds off the clock. Now, the problem for Rolly Massimino is he only has 1 more timeout left.
And 8 seconds, and that's maybe the biggest problem.
That's right. So by the time he gets it down court, Georgia Tech can just let the ball go on that second possession.
The Villanova bench. There's Wilbur with the knee brace on, Rolly Massimino and his assistants. They were the Cinderella team, maybe the greatest of all last year, beating Georgetown in the championship. Georgetown gets knocked out today. Missed free throw comes into the hands of Georgia Tech. That was the story of their first half success, those rebounds off the offensive board. Foul is on Jensen.
And when you look at the stats of this game, for those purists of basketball, and take the first half stats and the second half stats, you'll wonder if the teams didn't change uniforms, because Georgia Tech was dominant off the boards. They went inside so much that they were dominant on the foul line. The second half, they got away from that, and that's what put Villanova right back in there.
Dalrymple can wrap it up if it isn't already wrapped up for Georgia Tech. Presley the rebound. Not enough time to go. Steal by Price, and the buzzer sounds. The game is over, and the defending national champions, the Villanova Wildcats, who were not expected to get near to Baton Rouge, have lost to Bobby Cremins, Georgia Tech Yellow Jack, 66-61, and that's how Villanova feels. They got a lot to be thankful for. Georgia Tech will move on and play LSU in Atlanta on Thursday night. Right now, let's go to New York and Brent Musburger.
All right, Dick, thank you. So 3 of last year's Final Four knocked out on this day, including, of course, the defending champion Villanova. Now, a close game going on here. The waning moments, and DePaul does not shoot free throws well. Let's join Jim Nance.
We'd like to welcome those of you who have been watching the Villanova-Georgia Tech game. We are in Greensboro, East region, and a big free throw by Tony Jackson. DePaul in the blue uniforms now leading by 5 with 21 seconds to go. There you see Georgia Tech, a winner by 5 over Villanova. DePaul has led throughout. Sooners have been within 1, not been able to take the lead, and they now trail by 5, and time is running out. Jim Nance along with Bill Raftery. This is Anthony Bowie. He misses. Rebound picked up by Comegys. And here is one of the key figures for Joey Meyer's squad in the final 5 minutes. Dallas Comegys. He had not been heard from all day, Bill Raftery.
Couple of passes, couple of shots, and taking him out, just put him back in a little while ago. That foul by Dave Seeger. But they rebounded the last couple of times. Oklahoma just throwing the long jumpers and crashing, trying to get back in this thing.
This ACC crowd erupts with joy as they hear that Georgia Tech has downed Villanova out of the Big East. Now Comegys will go to the line. Final 4 minutes, he's a 73% shooter. Only 11 ticks left. DePaul, the 12th seed in the region, can make it to the round of 16. Comegys misses. Oklahoma has to do something very quickly. McAllister. Comegys again, but he was on the line.
Again, the long jumper trying to go after it. Joey Meyer, his club, outstanding performance. Didn't get into a ratty type of game. And there you go. A Rod Hudley flip by Rod Strickland as the clock ran down. And maybe the monkey's off Joey Meyer's back.
And DePaul has done it. The 12th seed in the region. They have upset number 4 for Oklahoma after upsetting number 5 Virginia on Thursday. The pressure apparently off of DePaul this year, not being one of the favorites, and they are now down to one of the final 16 teams in the tournament. Let's go back to New York and Brent Musburger.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. And your Chevrolet MVPs from that game for DePaul, Marty Embry, he had 19 points, and for Oklahoma, it was Darrell Kennedy. Now in the Georgia Tech victory over Villanova, the Chevy MVPs there for Nova, Harold Presley, and for Georgia Tech, it was Dwayne Farrell. Those were Chevrolet MVPs from Bradley and Louisville, Hersey Hawkins for Bradley, and of course you can see Milt Wagner. Now speaking of the West region, many of you are now going to be seeing North Carolina UAB. The rest of you come back here for a recap, and we'll have that when we continue on the road to the Final Four in just a moment. Ogden for the North Carolina UAB game, but quickly a scoring recap on this busy Saturday. Out west in that region, Louisville has eliminated Bradley 82-68, and so the matchups there now, they will play the West region, of course, in Houston, and you will see that Louisville will play the winner of the North Carolina UAB game. In the Southeast, and again, the defending champions have been knocked out. Georgia Tech, a winner of gutsy comeback by Villanova, but they fell a little short. Earlier down there in Baton Rouge, LSU at the buzzer came away with an 83-81 victory over Memphis State. So 2 of the Final Four teams were knocked out in Baton Rouge today. And you can see that LSU, which had the home court advantage, now gives it away next week when they go down to Atlanta to play Georgia Tech in the Omni. Now in the East in Greensboro this afternoon, DePaul 74-69 over Oklahoma, and earlier Duke downed Old Dominion 89-61. So in the East, they will advance to the Meadowlands in New Jersey, and Duke will be matched against DePaul. The Midwest in Dayton, Kansas snapped alive in the second half, 65-43 over Temple. Meanwhile, Michigan State upset Georgetown, a third of the Final Four teams knocked out today, 80-68, 24 for Scott Skiles in that game. They will move to Kansas City in the regional final, and in that semifinal game, you see that Kansas will be playing Michigan State. Now I want to take you through the schedule tomorrow. Again, it is a triple header. We will start at noon. Many of you will watch Alabama take on Illinois. The rest of you will see Navy versus Syracuse. Syracuse, again, will have the home court advantage up there in the Carrier Dome. Then around 2 p.m. Eastern Time, the second game, and we will feature Western Kentucky University against Kentucky. Could be a grudge match there. Kentucky seeded #1 in their region, trying to hold off Clem Haskins' team. We'll also cover the amazing story of Cleveland State against St. Joe's, and Arkansas Little Rock taking on North Carolina State, that one from Minneapolis. Then at 4:30, our triple header games, and we will feature Auburn against St. John's. And remember that St. John's is the only one of last year's Final Four teams still left in this tournament. They go up against a very dangerous Auburn team tomorrow. Walter Berry, of course, will lead the Redmen. And the rest of you will be watching Iowa State against Michigan in the Midwest. Johnny Orr goes back against the school he once coached, of course, Michigan. He took them to the Final Four where he lost to Indiana. Now out west right now, in the early going, North Carolina with an 8-2 lead over UAB. Some of you are going to go watch that game. For the rest of you, good night. We'll see you tomorrow. So long, everybody.
The end of the month playing down in Dallas because 3 of last year's Final Four teams are out of the NCAA tournament. All 3 eliminated Saturday, all 3 in totally different ways. For Memphis State, it was a last-second heartbreaker to LSU on the Bayou Bengals home court down in Baton Rouge, and it got started early when Memphis State's Andre Turner swiped the ball and broke up court. Watch this pass to William Bedford on the alley-oop, and Memphis State was off and running. Time running down first half, Memphis State trails by a point. Outlet pass, Baskerville home from 30 feet. Off the glass it goes, and it counts, and Memphis State leads by a point at the intermission, but LSU stormed back, and then the Bayou Bengals put it together to take the lead and finally come back to tie it up again when John Williams banked this one in off the glass, and time was running down. Watch what happens. One last chance, tie game, going to go to overtime, but in the mess, somehow or another, Anthony Wilson pulls it out, puts it up, and it falls as time expires. The place erupts as Dale Brown goes to congratulate Dana Kirk, who slaps his hand and says, way to go. Baton Rouge. Rouge up for grabs as Louisiana State somehow, someway gets the ball to drop to beat Memphis State, stun the Tigers, knock them out of the NCAA tournament 83-81. Louisiana State, indeed, an amazing win for Dale Brown.
It was purely guts and love and believing in each other. We have had everything in the world come upon us, and we hung together and we believed and we dared to be great in the worst moments. So I'm so happy for the team and our fans. They deserved it.
So Memphis State is out, and so is last year's national champion. Mark Price double pumps, gets nothing but net. Georgia Tech against Villanova, the defending champs. Villanova down by 18 in the second half, came fighting back, though, scrapping and clawing with its usual style. Inside, Harold Presley, great move, gets the hoop, gets the foul, and all of a sudden, Tech's lead of 18 is dwindling. Then it was Presley again, inside the lane. He popped out, took the shot from about the foul line, and all of a sudden, Nova had cut it to 2 at 59-57. Tech looked like they were in trouble, but Georgia Tech regrouped and down the stretch went to the big guy in the paint, John Sally. Good move, gets it off, gets nothing but net. Georgia Tech holds off Villanova just barely, 66-61. Georgia Tech beats Villanova, and now what happens is the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets will go home to Atlanta. The quarterfinals of the Southeast Regional Tournament, Georgia Tech semifinals of the regional, quarterfinals overall. It will be Tech at LSU, and LSU, which played at home, going to have to watch Georgia Tech with that home cooking, the Omni in Atlanta.
During the 4 years that Patrick Ewing played at Georgetown, the Hoyas made it to the finals 3 times, including a national championship. John Thompson's team has been on a mission this year to prove it's not a one-man program. But the Hoyas fell far short of their past thanks to a little man from Michigan. Scott Skiles and the Spartans taking on the Hoyas of Georgetown. Skiles, who had 31 to get them into the second round against Washington, missed 7 of his first 8 shots. Stone cold. The Hoyas take the lead early. Then Skiles decides, I won't put it up. I'll fake it and dish off. And the recipient is Larry Pollock. The Spartans up by 2 at the break. Then in the second half, the alley-oop is aborted, and it goes the other way. Skiles, watch this play. Remember Magic Johnson? Well, they'll have new Magic in East Lansing, Michigan. Take another look, looks the other way, behind the back. Again, Pollock, the recipient of the gift. Michigan State starts to pull away. He has 24 points, and Skiles also leads the cheerleading. Michigan State 80-68, and so the third of the 4 Final Four teams is out of the picture. Second game of the day, Temple against Kansas. Larry Brown's Jayhawks are on a roll, but early on, the Owls giving them a scare. The block against the much taller Jayhawk team goes the other way. Nate Blackwell, who led the Owls offense, ends up with the ball, finds himself wide open, pumps the jumper, 6-0 in the early going. They built a 15-10 lead, and then the inside game went to work for Kansas. The miss, but Greg Dreiling right there for the follow-up, and Kansas starting to get itself back in the game when Danny Manning takes off on a Ralph Sampson coast-to-coast. A little awkward, but it counted, and the Jayhawks led by 5. Now in the second half, the give and go. Cedric Hunter puts it home, and the Jayhawks start celebrating their 33rd victory of the season against just 3 losses. Their average margin of victory in this tournament, 24 points with that victory. Next Friday, it's Kansas, right where they want to be. At the Kemper Arena in Kansas City, they will go against Skiles in Michigan State and see if they can be the first team to hold him and Judd Heathcote's team in check.
Indeed, it's going to be very interesting. Of course, tomorrow we'll have the other half of this final 24, final 32. When CNN Sports Tonight continues, Ohio State gets a new head coach, plus highlights from the West today, including North Carolina.
And we'll also run down the East, where a team which built a reputation on getting upset in this tournament has suddenly turned giant killer itself.
Welcome back to CNN Sports. John Fricke, Gary Miller along with you. When the bids for this tournament came out last Sunday, a lot of folks looked down and said, DePaul, how'd they get in this field? They don't belong there. Maybe they do, the DePaul Blue Demons. And everybody's saying Joey for Joey Meyer. First half against Oklahoma down in Greensboro, and DePaul came out running. Watch Rod Strickland get the ball. Great move in the paint, and then laid it up and got nothing but net. Got the foul, got the hoop, and Billy Tubbs. Oklahoma Sooners wondering what's going wrong, but Oklahoma came back. David Kennedy on the lob, and Oklahoma has cut the DePaul lead to 5. But Marty Embry with probably the slam of the day. Watch this thing bring down the house, and thank goodness for breakaway rims. Then it was Tim McAllister again, down deep. Oklahoma cut into DePaul's lead, and with 2.5 minutes to go, it was down to 1. But DePaul pulled away, held off Oklahoma at the end. Again, it was Rod Strickland on the receiving end of this pass. Great move underneath the hoop, using the hoop as a shield, as DePaul pulls away to win. 74-69, wins its second straight NCAA game. And how many times do we see DePaul with their great teams go out and only to lose in the first round or two? And now this year, when everybody said, well, maybe they shouldn't be in, they've won 2 straight and looking pretty tough. And the Demons starting to make believers out of just about everyone.
I'm pretty confident we can beat anybody in the country. And we just have to go out there and prepare ourselves for Duke University. And hopefully we'll get our chance to prove to everybody out there in the country DePaul does belong here. This is just the start.
Indeed, DePaul will get a chance to prove itself against the best, #1 Duke. But it was Old Dominion in the light blue with Keith Gaddison slamming home shots that was giving the Devils a devil of a time early on. But then it was Johnny Dawkins, winner of the Naismith Trophy. Watch the alley-oop to Johnny D. Number 24, and yes, he did win the Naismith, is just having a great game. This is the Johnny Dawkins highlight show. Watch this move. Great pass, gets it back from Danny Ferry, and then the soft touch. And as if that wasn't enough, watch Dawkins one more time. The breakaway, Tommy Amaker comes up with it. Dawkins all alone, 180, slam. Duke goes home a winner as they advance. 89-61 over Old Dominion. Duke will get DePaul now. The East Regional coming up Thursday. East Rutherford, New Jersey. DePaul against #1 Duke.
Our last stop around the regionals is at Ogden, Utah, where North Carolina was hoping to rise to the heights it had attained when they were the nation's #1 team. After going 21-0, the Tar Heels lost 5 of their next 10 games and looked awkward in eliminating Utah. This afternoon, Alabama, Birmingham, and they made their coach, Gene Bartow, red hot. The Blazers were not playing well early, and the defense for the Tar Heels was one of the reasons. Kenny Smith will pick the pocket here and go coast to coast. Puts his team up 20-4. It was over before it began. But late in the first half, Bartow's team stalled Carolina, then worked on the boards. Reggie Turner gets the follow-up, and they had cut the lead to 7 by the intermission. Then in the second half, Brad Doherty in foul trouble. Joe Wolf comes off of that injury and scores inside. He had 16 rebounds for Smith's team. Again, working it inside, the brilliant backdoor. Curtis Hunter lays it in, and Carolina pulls away 77-59. They move to the Sweet 16 again. As you see, their 6th trip in a row. They are 28-5. Dick Versace, Bradley Braves taking on Louisville. And coming back with authority, Mike Williams with the jam, overcoming a 7-point deficit in the second half, and it wakes up Purvis Ellison and the Cardinals. The turnaround for their freshman big man, and now they tie it back up before Bradley goes to the defense. Hersey Hawkins, their All-America candidate, comes up with the ball, jams it home. We're tied again at 59. Hawkins had 20, but that was the last gasp for Bradley. Milt Wagner takes control from there, goes all the way in, puts it off the glass. He had 16 points, including 8 in the final 5 minutes. You can see the reaction of Bradley, whose season ends at 32-3. The Cardinals have now won 17 of 18 with the 82-68 victory, and that sets up the most intriguing matchup of the 3rd round. Certainly next Thursday at the Summit in Houston, the Cardinals will be shooting for their 14th straight win against North Carolina. Off the court, for the first time in its history, Ohio State has offered a multi-year contract to its basketball coach, making it official on Saturday and signing Gary Williams away from Boston College. Recognized as one of the most gifted coaches in the country, Williams signed a 5-year deal worth $75,000 per season. He replaces Eldon Miller, who's moving on to Northern Iowa after the Buckeyes finish the NIT. That tournament continues on Monday when they will be taking on Texas.
When CNN Sports continues the NBA, this was to be the night Michael Jordan returned to action for the Chicago Bulls.
And the man who was the runner-up to Jordan for Rookie of the Year honors returns to the Rockets. The NBA's ahead, but first, Sunday's matchups in the NCAAs. Welcome back to CNN Sports, where we can finally say welcome back to Michael Jordan. The man in the jet-propelled shoes has been grounded since October, but the All-Star guard decided to give his broken foot a test Saturday as the Bulls hosted the Bucks, and Chicago sensed it. A packed house on hand to watch the divisional leaders come in against Air Jordan. There was Stan Alback getting some instructions, and he's playing limitedly, but it was the old Jordan. Now, this is a man that's been resting for 4 months. Watch this move. The Michael of old, welcome back to the NBA, and the Bucks were having their problems. He wasn't only skying. Here he goes down the lane in the second half. Double pump, no description for that shot. The Bulls got problems in the fourth quarter. This dunk by Sidney Green, their lead was down to 5 when the Bucks come down. And Mike Glenn got red hot. He's been scoring in bunches for the Bucks lately. Put the game into overtime, and then the Chicago native, Terry Cummings, jams at home, celebrates his birthday with a 125-116 victory in overtime. But the good news for the Bulls, Jordan, 12 points in 14.
We said in the last 6 weeks he's been averaging almost 27 points. Douglas, I don't think that's the guy they want taking the shot, did they? Off it comes now and broken up, and we come to the close of this first half of play. So after trailing by 9, Navy comes back to take a 1-point lead at halftime, 32-31. CBS Sports coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship will continue after this message and a word from your local station.
Player, isn't he? He could someday be the Roger Staubach of the NBA, and of course the scouts in that league are hoping that he outgrows battleships as well as submarines and can play pro ball right away. Now, in the other game in progress in Charlotte, North Carolina, Alabama has dominated Illinois. Bama has one of the most unheralded players in college basketball. His name is Buck Johnson. Watch him pound in that miss underneath. They had built a 13-point lead, and now it is down to 9 at the half. Last night, the last game concluded out west. North Carolina eliminated UAB 77-59. In case you did not see any of that action, Steve Mitchell had a nightmare. 3 of 21 from the field, 1 of 6 from the free throw line. UAB just could not get anybody to score early on. And watch Steve Hale come underneath the reverse layup, and the Heels opened a 15-point lead. More of the same second half. Kenny Smith, a little backdoor coming up here for Dean Smith. And now North Carolina rolls into Houston, where on Thursday night they have one of the biggest games of the tournament. They'll take on the Louisville Cardinals. And we will continue on the road to the Final Four here on CBS in just a moment.
I get such a kick out of watching this stuff. Hey, that's me. Number 46. Look at that.
Welcome back to New York. You know, earlier in the week, there was a lot of talk that with a field of 64, some of the teams at the bottom didn't belong in this tournament. Well, 1 week later, not only have a few talented but unheralded squads gained a measure of national recognition, but their fans are also enjoying the last laugh in such unlikely meccas of college basketball as Little Rock and Cleveland.
Friday afternoon in Cleveland, and Cleveland State shocks mighty Indiana.
They were dancing in the streets Friday night on Euclid Avenue. It was a great win over a big-name team. They're the prime time people. We're the off-Broadway people. It was super for our fans. It was super for the school. The kids just wanted a piece of the big names.
Tiny Arkansas Little Rock also took out a big name Friday. They ambushed Notre Dame.
It was a big win for the program. That means a lot for our conference, the Trans-American Athletic Conference, because it's the first time that a conference team has won a game in the first round.
A commuter school without an athletic tradition, Little Rock has never even sold out a home game. But now that big victory over the Fighting Irish may change that. Already the team has begun dreaming of Dallas in the Final Four. And maybe even sellouts at home.
They thought that just because they were Notre Dame, it was going to come out and not play them as hard. But, you know, we was on a mission, and we trying to complete that mission.
We believe in ourselves and just keep the positive attitude and just go out and keep playing our game. We could be a Cinderella team and probably Villanova.
But even if they don't go all the way, they've at least begun to get some of the recognition they so desire.
Instead of Arkansas Little Rock, before long, we'll be known as UALR. And, you know, everybody used to be Alabama, Birmingham. Now you say UAB, and everybody knows what they're talking about. That's what we're shooting for.
Cleveland State beat Bob Knight with a freelance, almost playground attack, adding insult to injury as far as the disciplined Hoosiers are concerned.
I think it was a success story for our style of play. We have a style that's completely opposite from Coach Knight's. I have tremendous respect for Coach Knight's philosophy and his system, but there is another way to play the game.
And if they can raise their game yet another notch, they'll wind up in a regional semifinal.
It's been a magic carpet ride, the whole NCAA, and hopefully we can continue to ride that magic carpet.
So the off-Broadway guys are coming up next on CBS. Many of you will watch Western Kentucky against Kentucky. Those two schools have met only once in their history, 1971 in the tournament, and Jim McDaniel led Western Kentucky to a victory. Coming up now, Dave Robinson and Navy, second half up in the Carrier Dome, and we'll have that action in just a moment.
What a shot by Terry Connor with Bruce Douglas right in his face.
Alabama
here, and David Robinson. Boy, what a performance. Might be the best individual performance we've seen all year.
I love him. I can't tell you enough about what I think of him as a player. And we've seen three players the last couple days, Gary, who I'll put on my All-American team any day. I'll take David Robinson as a center. You can give me Scott Skiles as a guard, and I'll take Danny Manning as a forward. Give me two recreation players. Right? That's right. Give me two recreation players, and I'll let you choose your team.
You got a great heart, I'll tell you. And remember, Robinson has another year. He's a junior. They might be unfair in another year, huh? In it comes, broken up, and now Navy trying to kill the remaining 15 seconds, but a foul, and the foul's going to go on Pearl, and he's fouled out. And he gets a standing ovation.
Which he well should.
They're still applauding. That's a great moment in sports. 28 points for Pearl. And you made a point a while ago. Will that be the last time in a Syracuse uniform?
Well, one side there are tears. The other side there are smiles.
Monroe with 10 seconds. Able to get it to go. The midshipmen of Navy. They've come here and they have conquered Syracuse in their home territory. The midshipmen with a 29-4 record, ending Syracuse's season at 26-6. And there's the man that led the way. It's a stunner. Navy will continue on. They're going to the Meadowlands in East Rutherford to play the winner of the game. Coming up next, the final, 97-85 Navy. Now let's go to Brent Musburger in New York.
All right, Gary, and so the year of the upset continues in this NCAA tournament. 7 seeded teams have now been knocked out. The Chevrolet most valuable player, and from now on, we'll just call him the Admiral. David Robinson with 35 points, and for Syracuse, the Pearl Washington. And we'll set the menu for Game 2 of our tripleheader when we continue on the road to the Final Four. Coming up right after these messages from your local stations.
Live from the Charlotte Coliseum in Charlotte, North Carolina, we've got Western Kentucky against Kentucky. Second round of the NCAA. Let's check the starting lineups. First for Western Kentucky. Up front, Kennard Johnson, a junior, 6'9", and Ray Swager, a 6'3" junior. The center is Clarence Martin, also a junior at 6'8". The backcourt, McNary, a sophomore, and Billy Gordon.
From the field, and he has 5 rebounds. Chris Washburn has scored 16 points, and North Carolina State leads Arkansas Little Rock by only 4 points at the half there. Cleveland State, They lead St. Joe's 14-9. They're midway through the first half of that game. Down in Charlotte, a buzzer beater. It was Terry Connor going one-on-one against Bruce Douglas. Let's pick it up.
Great job on him, keeping him out of the lane and makes him take it. Hit it. What a shot by Terry Connor with Bruce Douglas right in his face. You said this was about the first close game that you felt you had won all year.
Yeah, we play a lot of close ones, but it seems like when it got down to the end, we always lost the game. This is the time when you got to win the close ones, and we came through and won it.
And the winner of the Western Kentucky game is next for Alabama. But the shocker of the day, at the Carrier Dome, Navy showed surprising vitality. They shocked Syracuse in the Jim Boeheim Invitational. Watch here now as the Admiral, Dave Robinson, with one of his 8 blocks, comes in with 2 of his 35 points. He wasn't done. He rammed in another one, got Cycley in foul trouble, and eventually fouled him out.
It's been going great for me. This season's been going well, and this is just the highlight of our season so far.
So Navy now advances to the regional semifinal at the Meadowlands, and we will continue on the road to the Final Four here on CBS in just a moment. Welcome back to New York. You know, yesterday, 3 of last year's Final Four teams were eliminated. That leaves only St. John's, and they had to hold off a gutsy bid by Montana State in their first game. Now, later today, St. John's is slated for action against Auburn. Now, when you think of St. John's, of course, you think of Walter Berry, but there's an unsung hero who many say may be an equally important factor in the Redmen's success. He's their field general, Mark Jackson.
A year ago, when St. John's won the West Regional, hardly anyone was surprised. But when the Redmen rebounded last week to capture the Big East Tournament, that was a stunner.
What they did was miraculous. The entire program deserves a great deal of credit.
Most of the praise has been heaped on Walter Berry, but helping the truth emerge as Player of the Year has been Mark Jackson. He is the real catalyst of this year's St. John's team.
I think he meant a whole lot to our offense this year, and he was the key.
Somebody's got to get the ball to Berry, and he's the one that does it. And I don't think there's been a more valuable player to his team in the league. You know, you look, everybody talks about Pearl Washington for Syracuse, but I think Jackson's been just as important to St. John's.
Now everybody is talking about the new assist record Jackson set at St. John's.
I have to give all the credit to my teammates. It's 2 parts to the equation. I'm getting them the ball, and they're finishing the plays.
Last year, Jackson never even figured in the equation. It was Chris Mullin and Walter Berry, period.
Last year, I had to sit down and watch Chris Mullin. I used it as a learning experience. I learned from them and put things into my repertoire.
The rap on him was he couldn't shoot. So Coach Carnesecca used to tell me to take him before. I used to get there a little bit early, half hour or so, and we play one-on-one. And I used to make him shoot the ball.
But foremost, he's a passer.
Not only does he give him a pass, but he gives him the ball where he can do something with it.
Mark will gladly give up the ball. He'll do whatever it takes to lead the Redmen back to the Final Four.
Oh, I think about it night and day. I really believe we can. If we play the way we're capable of playing, the sky's the limit for this team.
Now, this could be a good game. The Southeastern Conference is showing up stronger than expected, and Auburn will be ready for St. John's. Chuck Person's a tremendous athlete. He'll draw Berry. The rest of you will see Iowa State against Michigan. Now, let me quickly update Game 2 up in Syracuse for you. Cleveland State leading St. Joe's. It is now 14-11. Coming up now, the second half of the game you're watching here on CBS right after this.
Of this second round Midwest regional battle between North Carolina State, seeded number 6, and Arkansas Little Rock, the team that defeated Notre Dame in the first round. We have 14 seconds to go in the game, and we'll bring you back to the Western Kentucky Southeast battle. Right now, here's the story. University of Arkansas Little Rock, trailing most of this half by as many as 7 points under Mike Newell, has a chance to take the lead. On the line is Ken Worthy.
50% free throw shooter, Dick. And another thing that happened on that play, the foul was on McMillan.
Fouled out of the ball game, so the starting point guard for North Carolina State, Nate McMillan, is fouled out of the game, and a timeout is called. So with 14 seconds to go, Worthy on the line will try to give Arkansas Little Rock the lead. Each team now with one timeout left. It has not been a scintillating ball game. The score is, but not the way the game has been played, really.
No, it really has not been a pretty game to watch. And NC State tried to go in that little stall delay game. They haven't gotten up a shot in about 2 minutes. Arkansas Little Rock has been trying to do everything they can. They don't know where to look for the score. Clark, who was very good on the inside, fouled out of the ball game. And of course, the fellow that they counted on so much, Myron Jackson, who had the great start of the ball game, hasn't been able to hit anything. What has he missed? 12 in a row now from the outside? 13 straight shots.
He had 15 to lead the team and has missed 13 shots. So now their best inside player fouls out. Their best outside shooter can't hit a lick in the second half. And this team that has out-rebounded opponents by 9 a game, and being out-rebounded here they are within a 1-point game.
A chance to win it all, but they have a 50% free throw shooter on. The best thing about it, though, Ken Worthy is a senior. They want to see that senior on the line.
He is a 50% shooter from the line. We want to remind you we have 3 minutes and 50 seconds, 3:50 remaining in the Western Kentucky game. That's the score, 64-59, and we will be sending you back to that game in Charlotte, North Carolina. But right now, Ken Worthy, a 6'5" senior from Mobile, Alabama, one of 3 kids from Mobile who grew up together, went to high school and went to school. Clark, Myers, and Worthy all here at Arkansas Little Rock, team from the Trans-America Athletic Conference with a chance to move them another notch and continue a fantastic story.
Kelsey Weems into the game. Jim Valvano had to put in somebody else who hadn't had a lot of playing time at all, so an experienced backcourt there. Good looking shot.
Ties it up. I'll tell you, this team has tremendous poise. It looks like they have no fear. They were even warming up with NC State on the same basket before the game as Mike Newell, who was an assistant at Oklahoma, and Jim Valvano, who won a title 3 years ago.
Oh, it doesn't go.
Stays a tie with 13 seconds to go, and NC State, which has had only 1 basket and 2 points in the last 6 minutes, wants a timeout. It'll come down to 7 seconds and a tie game.
That's their last timeout.
7 seconds to go. They've been trying, obviously, to get the ball in the hands of Washburn, who's been silent as of late, even though he leads with 18 points. Last timeout. The score is tied with 7 seconds to go. Arkansas Little Rock has 1 timeout remaining, and the possession arrow, in case of a held ball, favors North Carolina State. Now keep in mind, this half, Chris Washburn, the leading scorer for the Wolfpack, with 18, has only 2 points. And the big man has been Benny Bolton from outside, who has scored 11 of his 12 in this half, Bill.
Well, I think you want to look at somebody that has proven over the course of the year they'd put up a shot. Benny Bolton did miss a big shot in the Atlantic Coast Conference Tournament, but he's a guy that ought to be the hot hand for him.
There's the score with Kentucky leading Western Kentucky, and we'll be going back to Charlotte for the conclusion of that game. 7 seconds to go.
Ernie Myers, the guy that likes to penetrate, he has to be
4 seconds. And there's Bolton, who's been red hot. Knocked away. We're going to overtime. It was Benny Bolton who's been hot, but he missed from the corner. And North Carolina State will have to go to an extra session against the truly Cinderella team. They called Valvano's Wolfpack Cinderellas in '83. Arkansas Little Rock keeps the dream alive. Overtime at 56-56, and right now let's send you back to New York and Brent Musburger. We'll have a 5-minute overtime session between Arkansas Little Rock and NC State. Back to you, Brent.
All right, they get ready for overtime. We want to send you back now for the last minute 40. 65-60, Kentucky with the lead. There is a timeout. When you pick up the action, Western Kentucky will have the ball. Here's Mike Patrick.
Western Kentucky has cut the lead to 5 points with 1 minute and 37 seconds left. Clem Haskins has called a timeout. He will have 1 left. Eddie Sutton of Kentucky has 2 remaining in the final 1:37. And Western Kentucky really has to get credit for all the courage that they've shown coming back against a team that is as great as the Wildcats of Kentucky.
Almost out of necessity, when Clem Haskins had to substitute for the Tellis Frank, who fouled out.
Right.
He got a quicker squad in there, a smaller squad, really forced the tempo. Their press worked extremely well. And you really have to like the fact that the Hilltoppers did not lose confidence. They continued with their game plan, even though it had not been working for 3/4 of the game.
Eddie Sutton has seen his team lose a big lead. It's down to 5 now. And Western Kentucky trying to eat into that lead with 1:37 left. What a great game for Kennard Johnson. And they'll try to get the ball inside to him. He has 20 points. A bucket here, we would have a 3-point game.
This is usually where tradition comes into play. A team that's accustomed to winning the tight games and the big games like Kentucky usually plays with poise down the stretch.
Tisdale, short, got his own rebound. Stripped. Kentucky with the ball. Walker. Blackman. Basket counts, offensive foul. Well, Blackman won't mind that. He won't mind giving up the foul for the 2 points, and Kirk Lee was trying to draw the charge.
I mentioned that the big teams normally play with poise and come up with the big play in the tight situations. Take a look at the quick hands on defense here. Nice play. Kentucky really came through, kept their head about themselves, and then they continue to move the ball up and down the court. An unselfish pass by Kenny Walker over to Blackman, and a good call by the official because the ball had been released before the contact.
Now, this is the best time for Western Kentucky to score with the clock stopped. 1:15 left to go, and Lee will go to the free throw line. He is only a 63% free throw shooter. He's there on the 1-and-1. His team now down by 7. Not even close. And Walker with the basketball. Big possession there, and now Kentucky will work on the clock.
Amazing how Walker still has spring left in his legs after being banged around all game long and playing hard.
He's just unbelievable. Bennett and Harden exchanging the ball. Kentucky just very well schooled. And here's a foul away from the ball as Walker was getting banged around a little bit again. He's got to be used to that by now, though, doesn't he? Arkansas Little Rock in overtime, 61-56 over North Carolina State. They just don't quit. What an amazing story for them. It is not a final, however. We'll keep you up to date on it.
If you don't put a team like that away early, you allow their confidence to build.
That's right. Now, Western Kentucky was confident enough to close within 5, and they had the basketball. Right now, they're down by 7. And Kenny Walker can really do them some damage. He has 28 points. No good on this free throw. And the Hilltoppers are still alive. This is Swagger. Pull-up jumper. Offensive rebound, and it will go against Western Kentucky with 44 seconds left. Kennard Johnson really upset. He thought he had to rebound inside. But apparently he pushed off to get position. And look at Clem Haskins.
You really have to respect the job that Clem Haskins has done staying with it. But take a look at Kennard Johnson, number 33 on the inside. Actually, he got pushed from behind by Winston Bennett. That caused a contact. Talking about a 3-car pileup.
Timeout with 44 seconds left, and it's Kentucky by 7. You survive.
And Kentucky has done it nicely all year long, tradition carrying through.
We want to thank everybody here in Charlotte for a great stay for this Southeast Regional. Right now, let's go back to New York and Brent Musburger.
All right, now we want to pick up the overtime game. They're tied at 62, about 2:10 to go. Arkansas Little Rock has the basketball. Let's join Dick Stockton and Billy Packer. Dick.
The shot clock. Pete Myers has just hit a basket to give the University of Arkansas Little Rock the lead again. It's 64-62, 1:50 remaining here in Minneapolis. Dick Stockton and Billy Packer. For you fans who've been watching Kentucky against Western Kentucky, saw the Wildcats move on, beating Western by that score. We have 1:38 to go. Benny Bolton has been on the soul scoring-wise, and the foul is called against Arkansas Little Rock. And a chance for NC State to tie the game, and that was Ken Worthy with the foul, and that'll be 4 on Worthy. An improbable game in many ways, Billy.
Well, it really is, and neither team has been able to get a flow going in this ball game. It's kind of been a game of attrition, kind of like the Iowa game we watched the other night between NC State. It's a matter of which team was going to survive at the end.
Jim Valvano, who started the game sitting on this raised floor with everyone else with his jacket up, on. He came up on the floor, took his jacket off. He hasn't done everything but loosen his tie. Meanwhile, Mike Newell looks like he just came out of Gentleman's Quarterly.
Good-looking fella. Got that suntan.
Here's Bolton, who, by the way, has all of his team's points in overtime, and
comes up short on that one.
He had a career high of 18, could have broken it there, but missed the free throw. It could have brought NC State to within one, and now with 1:25 to go, Arkansas Little Rock, who scored the first 5 points of overtime, then saw the lead dissipate, trying to make it 4-point lead again.
And now you go ahead and work that clock a little bit. You have to think of who you want to foul that's out there on the court. We're looking at a man with a ball worthy of 50% free throw shooter. Had a chance to seal this game up in regulation.
He is the player with the lowest free throw shooting percentage. And now with 1 minute to go and 11 on the shot clock, big possession for Little Rock.
Good block.
Campbell, who hasn't shot much, off the rim, and the rebound by Chris Washburn. And North Carolina State with 50 seconds to go, trying to tie the game.
They've got to go inside some. They haven't been able to get the ball. Washburn hadn't touched the ball in what seems like hours.
2 points in the second half, none in overtime. And he has 18 points, the same amount as Bolton. Ernie Myers, number 31, with 31 seconds and 30-29. And there is Bolton, who's been
Bolton the job
with a career high of 20 points in this ball game for Benny Bolton.
Arkansas Little Rock going to get that opportunity to get the last shot. The shot clock is off now.
14 seconds.
Got a chance to win it at the buzzer.
Jackson, Worthy, and Myers. I'd say Jackson and Myers would be the likely men to take the shot. Knocked away the field by Washburn with 4 seconds to go. Del Negro pushing it up 1 second. And let's see, trundling, and still 1 second on the clock.
Depends on where they're going to put this ball now.
Timeout will be called by Arkansas Little Rock with 1 second to go in overtime.
They'll get it out on the side. They will have a chance to get one off.
Were you surprised that there was no timeout called by NC State?
No, that was 4. I think you've got to take a chance to take the length of the floor.
We're tied with 1 second to go. Little Rock has to be sparkling right now with a chance to upset NC State, but with 1 second to go and not a lot of height inside, what can they do?
Well, with 1 second, you do have time to get the shot off.
Sure, it could be 1.9.
Hershey Hawkins, huh? You get Hershey Hawkins from Bradley here.
I knew you'd get him in.
That's right. You remember on the year, he made 2 shots with 1 second to go. I mean, on 2 different occasions he made a shot. Okay, let's think of what you want to do. Obviously, it looks from the way they're setting up, they're not going to go long inside. They figure Washburn knocks that one off, all right?
Ken Worthy, they're going to free someone for a long shot. 1 second.
He's got to throw it.
Campbell fires it up. It goes. No, way off the mark. And we're going to second overtime. Now, the Trojans of Arkansas Little Rock had a 5-point lead. Starting off the first overtime, they lost that, and so NC State came back, and they've been the team going uphill in the overtime period. So another 5-minute session coming up. The score is 64-64 in a grueling second round matchup here in this Midwest region, here at the Metrodome, where they've drawn the largest crowds in the first and second rounds. We're tied, and you wonder about Chris Washburn, who has not taken a shot in 17 minutes and is probably the most imposing player on the court for either side.
Well, Dick, you really have to wonder about that in regard to NC State. You've got a player that obviously was dominant when he touched the ball. Now he hasn't had the ball in a long time. He's not actively getting involved in the offense, and the offense is not doing anything to get him the ball. And when Clark fouled out, they lost. Arkansas Little Rock lost what power player they did have inside. You'd think NC State would be going to him even more. Of course, you got to come to the ball. You know, a lot of times a big guy said, I haven't touched it, but he doesn't come to work to try to get it.
You were right about Michael Clark, who was the leading rebounder in their conference. And Byron Jackson, who was hot early, did hit a layup in the overtime period, but at one point missed 13 shots, and you wonder where the points are coming from. Peyton Myers, by the way, number 25, a senior from Mobile, Alabama, has 16 points in the ball game and 11 rebounds, and he has been exhausted from the 8-minute mark on in the second half.
Right, he had to call timeout one time just to go ahead and take a blow. He's been holding up pretty well since that time. You know, I think back at a big play in this game. NC State looked like they were coasting along pretty well. You remember Washburn got the ball down inside, went up for the two-hand stuff, and McCurdy blocked him from behind. That seemed to be the play that turned this game around, got Arkansas Little Rock back into it, and that's the last time I can remember Washburn touching the ball.
It's amazing because earlier they were successful in looping the ball into him, but Arkansas Little Rock has kept them backed up on the
on the baseline, and there's Chris Washburn.
And remember what happened at the start of the first overtime. Washburn did not get the tap against Myers.
Myers is 6'6", Washburn is 6'11".
Bad toss again.
Couldn't get it again.
Bad toss again. That ball was thrown backwards.
And you know, because you're right on the line here.
Exactly. We are in perfect position to see it. The ball was thrown backwards, and Washburn had no chance to reach it.
All right, second overtime session, 5 minutes. The Trojans scored the first 5 points in the opening overtime session and couldn't hold on to it. See how they fare now. Keith Campbell has been the point guard. Jackson misses. McCurdy going up high, and there's Del Negro. He has Ernie Myers with him. Del Negro with a short jumper misses, and Keith Campbell comes out of the pack. Del Negro couldn't get a better shot than that.
Well, we could play here all day because it doesn't look like either one of these teams are capable of making the play that wins the ball game.
Kind of what the Iowa-NC State game was in the first round.
Just a replay.
Half a minute to go on the shooting clock. 4:12 remaining in the second 5-minute overtime session. They look for Myers inside. Del Negro is all over Campbell to try to make it tough for him to get the ball inside and deny the pass to Worthy on one wing. They get it now. Myers timing his jump, throws up an air ball, and a foul is called. And that will be against McCurdy, I believe.
A push off against Washburn from behind. Good job by Shackelford that time in the defense because he didn't go for the pump fake by Myers.
And for McCurdy, that is his 5th foul. He is fouled out of the ball game, and so the second senior from Mobile, Alabama, Michael Clark, being the first of the triumvirate of friends. Ken Worthy is still in the game. McCurdy fouls out, having scored 8 points with 5 rebounds.
Jim Valvano talking to Del Negro. They had the 2-on-1 fast break. He's telling him, go up strong with the basketball. Try to draw that foul. Good advice.
Coming into the ball game, Curtis Kidd, a 6'8" freshman from Detroit, who has 4 fouls and has not scored, but at least he gives them some rebounding presence inside, does Kidd.
Washburn, not a real good foul shooter, 65%. Jim Valvano must feel like this is 1983. They were the cardiac kids that particular year.
So on the line is Washburn, 4 for 5 from the line today. Good free throw shooter. 65%, but he makes them in the big games. 65% on the year. He averaged nearly 23 points a game the last 9 contests, and right now he has 19 points.
And against tough people.
Here comes Springer back in the ball game, replacing Campbell, who's got to be tired of it.
Washburn against what was then #1 ranked North Carolina had 26 and 21, had 22 against Kansas, 22 against Oklahoma, so comes up with the big games against the good teams.
2 free throws by Washburn, 2-point lead for NC State. They had a 7-point lead each in each half. Couldn't hold it.
Springer back in. Campbell just not able to get up any shot either, so
Springer has just refused to shoot, and I think NC State will be aware of it. They're just looking to watch the pass deny inside. Myers trying to get free.
Myers getting good position inside. Myers rotating on the inside with Kidd. Springer just won't take the shot.
Here's Jackson. Myron Jackson hits. He was the hot man early in the game, got cold, and now has 23 points. Ties the game again with 3:20 remaining. Second overtime. Shackelford in the front court has trouble.
Boy, you know, you sit there and hold your breath. Both teams, you don't know if one guy can make the shot or make a pass.
Like this is the first workout of the season.
That's right. It reminds you of October 15th. Ernie Myers has been quiet.
He has not scored until now. Ernie Myers, who's averaging over 9 points a game with his first points, 1 for 5 from the field, but couldn't come at a better time for Jim Valvano as State regains the lead.
It really is. Players are really playing tight at this point in the ballgame.
But more so NC State, it seems to me. Am I wrong in that?
I agree. And their feet seem to be in cement on both ball clubs right now.
Jackson. And intercepted by Del Negro. Pushing it up, but Worthy is back defensing. Del Negro out to Myers. And now with 2.5 minutes to play, NC State with a 2-point lead in the ball.
Great job by Worthy. It's good coaching to get your team back on defense. They've stopped almost every 2-on-1 break.
Myers outside. Washburn is all
wide open, and they're not even looking for him.
Now they find him. Washburn brings it out again. 20 seconds on the shot clock for North Carolina State in white.
And Dick, you wonder about this. NC State looking like they...
Shackelford inside. How long has it been since we've seen that?
That's right. They spread it on out.
Shackelford, 15 points in the game. And it's a 4-point lead for North Carolina State, 70-66. 1:53 remaining.
You know, NC State getting a good game out of Del Negro, and he sat that whole second half.
Myers.
Oh, misses an easy shot inside.
Yeah, but he's exhausted.
Yeah, he is. He's really tired.
Myers misses a shot. Could have brought
It looks like they're going into a half-court trap. 1-3-1 trap.
Washburn. Little Rock could have cut it to 2 and 1:33 remaining. Who's going to survive? Survival by attrition. And the foul against Arkansas Little Rock. It's against Paul Springer. And 1-1 on the line for North Carolina State. And a chance with a minute and a half to open up a 6-point lead.
Arkansas Little Rock extremely tired. All 5 of their players bending over, grabbing their pants right now, is using that big sign that guys are just wearing on down.
They haven't gone that deep into their bench most of the year, has Little Rock.
Well, they've used a number of people, but not a lot of minutes. I think it's interesting on the year. They've had 11 fellas that have scored in double figures, so you know somebody's getting in the game to put up some points.
Bolton, 8 of 11 from the line.
Big free throws. Now Chris Washburn going down the other end of the floor. Bolton has really been the man in these 2 overtimes.
Jimmy Valvano saying, whatever you do, don't foul. Bolton has 20 points in the second half and in these 2 overtimes. He's had a career high today, looking for point number 22.
Good follow through.
72-66, North Carolina State opening it up to a 6-point lead with 1:25 to go.
And NC State goes back to the box and 1. Del Negro on Jackson.
Tipped away by Myers, still controlled by Ken Worthy. The Trojans of Arkansas Little Rock. Inside, Myers goes up. Ball stripped away. Worthy has it on the other side with 25 seconds. That was a tough pass inside, and they lose it to NC State, and the sand is pouring out of the hourglass right now for Mike Newell's team.
Good job by Shackelford inside, because early in the ball game, he was having a hard time with the pump fakes by Myers, and right now there's a push off.
Bolton is fouled by Jackson, and they'll be 1-1, and Valvano is screaming.
He's telling Del Negro who he wants him to throw the ball to. A little bit upset. They're talking Italian there, those 2. And his dad was a player.
You know, Jim Valvano looks like a man in rage, doesn't he? The last 2 games we've seen him coach.
Well, he and George Raveling, they were a sight to see in the Iowa NC State game. Newell is the guy, as you gentleman's Corey. Is that what you said? I think that's a perfect example.
Here's Bolton, who has really been the man to bring NC State back and keep them in the game. 22 points.
He's been living at that free throw line.
And making them all.
Yep. I think after he missed that shot from the corner, ever since then, everything he's done has been very positive. Instead of going ahead and burying his head in the sand, he's come back in positive fashion. 23 points, his all-time high.
He can give NC State the biggest lead of the ball game with 1:07 remaining. And he does. So it's an 8-point lead, 74-66 in favor of North Carolina State. And time running down in the second overtime period. In the middle, Myers goes in and out. And a rebound by Bolton.
Doing it all, both ends of the court. That's his 7th rebound.
Arkansas Little Rock has scored only 2 points in the second overtime period, and a foul called against Myron Jackson.
Jim Valvano wondering why Ernie Myers just didn't pass the ball. Obviously, you don't want to try to dribble through 4 men.
And Jackson is fouled out of the ball game. He is the 3rd member of the Trojans to foul out. He goes out with a game leading 23 points, and the NC State players and Jim Valvano give him a salute and a handshake. All 5 NC State players pay homage to Myron Jackson, and a standing ovation from the crowd at the Metrodome. Senior from Hamburg, Arkansas, who led the Trans-America Athletic Conference in scoring this year in his last game. What an effort they put up, huh?
They did. They really did a good job. Nobody could deny them that opportunity. Came in here, everything against them.
Boy, they had a tough schedule this year. They went out to Hawaii, lost to Iowa in overtime, had 9 road games at one point, and won 8 of them. They won 19 of their last 20 games, the 14th seed. They knock off Notre Dame, and they take NC State to 2 overtimes, and in fact, in the first overtime session, had the first 5 points. They ran out of gas.
Well, advancing so far, what we have, Navy is the lowest seed that's advanced so far.
Syracuse, the
highest seed that moved out. Right.
Springer misses inside. Out of bounds. Arkansas Little Rock with 45 seconds to go, but trailing by 10, 76-66. Mike Newell making his mark here in this tournament. Second year. Myers misses. And there's the other Myers, Ernie Myers, ahead of the field. slams it through. That's the first time we've seen State do that all day.
That's right. They have not taken it through the hoop, and I think Arkansas Little Rock has done a good job with their safety man in that zone, preventing that from taking place all day.
Another steal. Washburn. Washburn gets his in with 20 seconds to go, and North Carolina State has outscored the University of Arkansas Little Rock 16-2 in the second overtime. The win going away. Keith Campbell called for the offensive foul.
Let's see if they're going to count that basket.
Jim Valvano's reaction to the last stuffed basket. 2 in a row by NC State.
You know, the basket went in. It was interesting to watch. You see Jim Valvano liked it because it's Washburn on his stuff, but all Washburn had to do was to go ahead and give the ball off to Myers, who was ahead of him on for the layup.
80-66, and North Carolina State will play the winner of the next game between Michigan and Iowa State. Myers with a pass. The buzzer sounds, and that's the end of the ball game. Final score is 80-66. Benny Bolton with a career high of 24 points, and 3 men fouled out for Arkansas Little Rock, including Myron Jackson, who led with 23. But what a battle he gave NC State to prove that they belong here for sure.
And then take home that big check.
Final score, NC State 80, Arkansas Little Rock 66 in a second overtime game, and NC State wins going away. So from Minneapolis, Dick Stockton and Billy Packer sending you back to Brent Musburger in New York. Brent?
All right, Dick, so one of the off-Broadway guys has been eliminated, but another one is hanging tough and headed for win number 2. Let's go up to Syracuse now, and we'll join Gary Bender. Gary?
We welcome those of you who have been watching that North Carolina State-Arkansas Little Rock game in double overtime, won by the Wolfpack. We have 13 seconds left in this one. Cleveland State, who's fast becoming the Cinderella team now in this 1986 tournament field, defeating St. Joseph's 73-67 to add to their impressive win Friday over the Hoosiers of Indiana. As Cleveland State, you're looking at Kevin Mackey, their young coach, ready to post their 29th win of the year against only 3 setbacks. Jim Boyle of St. Joseph's, his team season coming to an end. As Cleveland State, the Vikings, unheard of, relatively unknown, now on the basketball map. They have certainly got the attention of the basketball world, and they're jersey bound to the Meadowlands in East Rutherford. They will meet Navy, who earlier today pulled a major upset, defeating Syracuse on their home floor. I'm Gary Bender along with Doug Collins. Doug, this will be the 3rd Atlantic 10 team to be eliminated from the tournament field. It's all over. Cleveland State, 75. St. Joseph's, 69. And yes, Cleveland State is for real. The glass slipper still is going to be measured for this team, as Kevin Mackey has defeated Bob Knight, Jim Boyle. Earlier this year, he upset DePaul, and here today continues on to Jersey. For Doug Collins, I'm Gary Bender. They've completed the East region here in the Carrier Dome. Now, let's go to Brent Musburger in New York.
All right, Gary, 3 of the 4 seeds knocked out in that East region as they head for New Jersey. Cleveland State wins for the 2nd time. Earlier in the tournament, they upset Indiana. The Chevy MVPs, Clinton Smith for Cleveland State and Wayne Williams for St. Joseph's. Now, North Carolina State in double overtime defeated Arkansas Little Rock 80-66. For Arkansas Little Rock, the Chevy MVP is Pete Myers. And for North Carolina State, Chris Washburn with 22 points today. Kentucky over Western Kentucky, 71-64 the final. And for the Wildcats, Kenny Walker with 32 points and 8 rebounds. He is their Chevy MVP. And, of course, for Western Kentucky, Kennard Johnson, who played a splendid game in defeat. Now, coming up, of course, we'll have Game 3 of our tripleheader as we continue on the road to the Final Four here on CBS. And you all west right after this message and a word from your local stations.
The final games of round 2 of the NCAA Tournament originate from Long Beach, California. This coastline city is the home of the majestic Queen Mary. For the past 4 days, the Long Beach Convention Center has been the mecca for West Coast basketball. For one frightening moment Friday, time stood still for St. John's star Walter Berry. In the first half against Montana State, the truth took off for the hoop. But as the left foot went up, St. John's hopes for a national championship came down to a very sudden halt. And Coach Lou Carnesecca wondered whether his Cinderella season had struck midnight. But Walter Berry played in pain, delivering 31 points, and with it, victory 31, much to the delight of Coach Lou. Sonny Smith, Auburn's fine head coach, also looked for some magic Friday night from his star, Chuck Person. Person started cold, but in the second half, he got hot. His total of 20 points bombed Arizona's hopes of advancing in the tournament. Today, two superstars meet head up, Berry versus Person, St. John's versus Auburn. The St. John's Redmen, the only remaining Big East team in the NCAA Tournament, seeded #1 in the West. The Auburn Tigers, with a victory today, could become the 4th SEC team to make it to the round of 16. We'll return to Long Beach, California, right after this message.
Very talented athletes. The Southeastern Conference, the surprise conference of the tournament, they are 7-0. 3 teams already in the Sweet 16. Iowa State and Michigan underway, and Michigan leading right now 10-6 in the early going. In double overtime in Game 1 of Minneapolis, North Carolina State eliminated Arkansas, Little Rock, and they blew them away. But at the start of the first overtime, it was Arkansas Little Rock that opened up a 5-point lead, and that had Mike Newell clapping on the sideline. But then it was Bolton hitting a jumper. That sent the game into double overtime, and Jim Valvano's Wolfpack took command. Ernie Myers going down with a pass and the jam, and they won it going away.
I don't want to play Cleveland State.
I
don't want to play Arkansas Little Rock.
Seed. That's a 14th seed.
I don't like these guys either.
You said nobody with a hyphen.
Nobody at all. Let me tell you, I split my pants the first game. I lost my jacket this game. I'm going to be naked by the time this tournament's over.
But, Jimmy, you got to wait for Cleveland State, because first you got to get out of the Midwest. Iowa State, Michigan winner will draw Jim Valvano down in Kansas City in the Midwest Regional. All right, Southeast now in Charlotte. Kentucky today, 71-64. Great game by Kenny Walker. He was 11 of 11 from the field. He dominated throughout the game, although Western Kentucky staged a rally in the closing minutes, and they pulled back into it, but there was simply too much Kenny Walker. Roger Harden going down after the loose ball pickup,
like and Walker talked about it. Time when it's opened up a Christmas present when I see those zone defenses. And the guys just did a great job of getting the ball inside to me, and I was fortunate enough to catch it low, and then I was able to spin and just take it to the back.
Teams remaining in the tournament: 5 from the ACC, 4 from the SEC, 2 from the Big Ten, 2 from the Big 8, 1 from Metro, and 1 from the Big East, and that will be it. Walter Berry is checking out of the game. He has said he will not go hardship. He has said he will return for 1 more year at St. John's. That question came up again at the press conference yesterday, and Coach Carnesecca said, look, guys, let's not talk about this. He's told me he's coming back. I believe he will. Yes, he has the right to change his mind, but I don't think he will. Winner of the John R. Wooden Award, selected and given by the LA Athletic Club. 20 points and 6 rebounds for Walter Berry. There's Ron Rowland off the glass. He's got 14 points now in the game. Under 90 seconds to go. And 4 SEC teams are going to make the round of 16. That's for a football conference.
Well, it's a conference also. I don't think a lot of people talked about its strength in basketball, but it's, with almost every passing game becoming more evident, the Southeastern Conference really is a pretty good basketball conference.
Matter of fact, there was some thought, if it came down to a 65th team, hypothetical, who would be the 65th team selected, there was a lot of conversation, we understand, about whether it would be Florida or Georgia. And they couldn't decide on one or the other, so they left them both out and sent them to the NIT. And I know you like Florida's chances next year.
I think Florida's going to have an excellent club. Good recruiting here.
5 on the shot clock, and the rebound is up and in by Frank Ford. It's going to be Auburn on the way to Houston. Sonny Smith is back in the round of 16 again for Walter Berry. This season is over. Willie Glass gets 2. 81-63. Rebound domination, a transition game, fast breaks for the Auburn Tigers in the first half, and a sound defensive philosophy here in the second half has given them the victory.
Auburn made the changes. They made the modifications when they had to on offense and defense, and that's one of the reasons, plus outstanding shooting.
And a pretty good game plan put together by Sonny Smith. He's celebrating on the sidelines now. Two seconds to go. Chuck Person leads the way. And a man of class, Walter the Truth Berry.
That's a happy man right there. And well, he should be.
Louis Carnesecca, there's a class act.
One of the most benevolent and generous individuals you will ever meet in your life, Louis Carnesecca.
.27 points for Chuck Person. 16 rebounds. Guess who won? They're going to have to decide now who's going to sing alto, who's going to sing soprano, who's going to sing tenor, and who's going to sing bass, because there's a heck of an SEC quartet that's in the round of 16. The executive producer of NCAA Sports is Kevin O'Malley. Today's game produced so ably by Rick LaCivita and directed by John McDonough. Our associate producer, Scotty Johnson. Field technical manager was Oscar Vitale. Our production supervisor, Suzanne Turner. Our broadcast associate, Suzanne Smith. We want to thank all of our crew here, as well as John Kasser and his staff at the Cal State Long Beach University campus for hosting this NCAA tournament, as Auburn becomes the first of the teams here to advance to Houston. They will meet either Maryland or UNLV next, with a terrifically impressive game plan. A strong effort from Chuck Person, 27 points and 16 rebounds, and a happy Sonny Smith will lead his gang of War Eagles into the regional in Auburn. Larry Conley, a final thought about Walter Berry.
I think he's an absolutely fantastic quality athlete right here. Yeah, he's going to go down, but he had a great year, 31-4. Not a lot of resources to draw from, but that man right there, you're going to hear a lot about in the future.
And how about the coaching job by Sonny Smith? They're back in the round of 16 for the second straight year. They're in the NCAA championship for the third straight year. That had never been accomplished before by the Auburn University Tigers. Now, let's go to Brent Musburger in New York.
All right, Vern, thank you very much. So let me now set the scene. 16 of the top seeds, half the field is out. The Chevrolet most valuable players from that game, Chuck Person with 27 points for Auburn, Walter Berry for St. John's. They pick up the Chevrolet MVPs. And now in the West, you can see that Auburn has already advanced. They'll play the winner of the Maryland UNLV game, which is scheduled for later today. The Big East is now entirely gone for the tournament. We also may be about to lose the 9th of the top seeds. Michigan being beaten by Iowa State in Minneapolis. It is 44-35. The big surprise, the Southeastern Conference. All 4 of their teams have advanced past the second round. As a conference, they are now 8-0. This is the first time since 1981 that we have lost all 4 of the final 4 teams in the second round. And, of course, we don't know or have any idea who will replace them this year, because this tournament goes way up in the air. But a key matchup is Thursday night in the West. It'll be North Carolina and Louisville. 2 of the top seeds in that region will come together in Houston. Most of you will watch that game. The rest of you will be seeing LSU against Georgia Tech. So that sets the scene for where we stand right now. We're going to have post-game interviews, and we'll be sending you back out west when we...
The Terps right back. A minute, 18 seconds left. The score, UNLV 61, Maryland 50. A 3-point lead for UNLV as you look at the Rebel cheerleaders. This is a partisan UNLV crowd because so many hundreds came across from Vegas to get here for this one. But Maryland has been able to battle back and pull to within 3 with a minute and 18 seconds remaining.
What you got to do now is think about the strategy of these 2 clubs. Obviously, UNLV wants to take the basketball and put it in the hands of their best free throw shooters, because Maryland's going to have to foul. Lefty Driesell, on the other hand, probably is going to come with a quick lineup In fact, that's what he's got in there right now with Speedy Jones, Johnson, Bias, Baxter, and Gatlin.
Do not overlook those free throws. The head free throw in a 1-and-1 missed by first Hudson and then Wade. They get it into Freddie Banks. Banks is a good free throw shooter, so Gatlin has to keep his hands off of Freddie as he brings it across the timeline.
Mike, I think I'd play straight up right now. They're going to get the basketball back. They don't need to foul right now. The next time down the floor is when they want to foul.
Wade underneath. Here's Hudson. The 12th assist by Mark Wade. 63-58 UNLV. What a brilliant pass by Wade. Underneath, Bias. And are we going to have a jump ball or a foul? It's going to be a foul.
I tell you, Banks looked like he got an awful lot of that ball as he went inside. Bias tried to muscle it up. Has there been anybody come forward, a star, someone like a Lenny Bias? He is outstanding. When they needed him, he has stepped up there and produced.
Playing with 4 fouls, and Bias has 23 points, 9 rebounds. He is 9 out of 20 from the field. And he's 5 out of 5 at the free throw line. Still perfect. 63-59. 4-point lead for UNLV. Lefty Drizel is getting ready to send Dave Dickerson in there. Bias makes that one, so it is 63-60. Maryland down by 3 as Dickerson comes in.
Dickerson is the designated fouler. I can guarantee you that's what's going to happen.
And Speedy Jones will go to the bench. In it comes to Gilliam. Gilliam in trouble. Over to Wade. Wade across the timeline with that speed, and he is fouled by Gatlin.
No, Johnson. They got Johnson. They're going to put it on Johnson instead of Gatlin. Could have gone either way. John Johnson's the one that's going to get it. It'll be 1-and-1. A lot of pressure now on Mark Wade to walk up there and make these free throws.
Wade is a 71%er, but he was at the line about a minute ago, and he missed that head free throw on the 1-and-1. And Speedy Jones will come right back in for Maryland. We have 41 seconds left. Dickerson goes out. Wade is 1 out of 2 from the line. He has 5 points, 12 assists. Mark Wade from San Pedro went to Banning High School, not too far from here. Doesn't get it. Knocked away from Bias. The foul on Armin Gilliam, sending Bias, a great free throw shooter, to the line for the Maryland Terps.
Boy, what a tough break for UNLV and Jerry Tarkanian's running rebel. Wade has walked to the line. In fact, they've missed 3 front-end 1-and-1s.
2 by Wade, 1 by Hudson on the 1-and-1. 4 fouls on Armin Gilliam. 63-60. Maryland down by 3 with only 40 seconds remaining. But Bias can pull them to within 1. Bias has 27 points. What a strong second half performance by Len Bias. He is 7 out of 7 at the line. Still perfect. 63-61. And Tark's going to take a good chunk out of that foul right now.
Dave Dickerson standing there with Lefty Drizel, waiting his instructions to go back into this game.
1-point game. 63-62 as Bias cans a pair. Jones will go out. Dickerson will come back in. Hudson will inbound the ball. There's a long baseball pass down to Wade. Can he catch up with it? He just does before it goes out of bounds. Underneath, Anthony Jones. He doesn't score, but he's fouled. Jones has 21 points, and Jones is a 77% free throw shooter. 35 seconds left, just a scant 1-point lead for UNLV.
Well, that was a heads-up play by UNLV to get Wade on that run out, and if he could have caught up with it and laid it up, it'd have been an easy 2 for him.
Jones, 3 out of 4 at the line. 21 points, 7 rebounds for Anthony Jones. Great performance by Jones and a great performance by Len Bias. This figured to be close going in, and it has been just as good as advertised. UNLV only 7 out of 12 at the free throw line as a team. 63-62 Rebels. 35 seconds left. 64-62.
No hesitancy about that one. He just put it up and let it drop through the cords.
With the game on the line, it comes down to Anthony Jones and Len Bias. 22 now. 22 points for A.J. He's got it. 65-62 UNLV. The clock running. 30 seconds to go. Gatlin. Johnson has it knocked away. The foul on Freddie Banks.
And again, it was that slapping foul that UNLV likes to do. When the ball goes by and they take a swipe at it, and that time Banks got caught.
And the freshman from Knoxville, Tennessee will go to the line.
Watch Hudson try to converge with Banks right here as Johnson makes his move down the middle. He got it from both sides. Banks got the foul.
Johnson, a 67% free throw shooter. 0 for 2 today at the line. A 6'4" youngster from Knoxville, Tennessee. They want to get Baxter in there, and UNLV players are saying, no, it should be Johnson. And the officials will confer now. Jerry Tarkanian with assistant Ralph Readout. They tried to sneak Baxter in there at the free throw line. And I don't blame him, because Baxter is a 70% free throw shooter.
So what does Jerry Tarkanian do but call a timeout and let Johnson sit and think about it a while?
27 seconds remaining. The halftime score was 33-27 UNLV. Maryland came out to start the second half by scoring 12 straight points to take an 8-point lead. Then it was time for UNLV to go to work, and the Rebels had a spurt. And now it comes down to the final 27, 3-point lead, UNLV.
Mike, you made an interesting comment a few minutes ago about the two players really that have carried them, and they're the two that we talked about at the top of the show. Anthony Jones and Len Bias have led their two clubs. I think they've done an admirable job today for both of these teams. Not only walking to that free throw line and making free throws, but when they needed a field goal, a clutch shot, or a good pass, they were there.
And you've got two of the best in the business in Drizel and Tarkanian. Lefty has 524 victories in his 17 years at Maryland, his 9 years at Davidson. Tark, well, you figure out his years at UNLV and at Cal State Long Beach in his 7 years as a junior college coach in the Southern California area. He's well over 600 victories. So you've got two guys with 51 years of coaching experience, over 1,100 victories, and it's coming down to this in the second round of the West region of the NCAA. The winner to go on to face Auburn at the Summit in Houston, Texas next week.
Well, you know, whenever you reach this point, and from this point on, there really are no bad coaches left in there, because to get to this point, you got to do a pretty good job.
Looking at that shot of Jerry Tarkanian reminds me of the line yesterday at the news conference. Tark and Lefty are very close, and they say when we go to coaching clinics or coaches conventions, the other coaches go out to play golf. We go to the beach to tan our heads. Well, they're not going to get much sun today here in Long Beach because it's been a stormy, rainy Sunday afternoon in the Southern California area. But what a great basketball game here today. That's the line on John Johnson. Just a year ago, he was playing high school basketball, and the pressure is on him right here. Hudson loses the ball over to Gilliam. Bias falls down, and they're going to call for a jump ball. Alternate possession, or what, a foul?
Foul. Terry Long on the back right there. Looks like Gilliam had the basketball and was really surrounded.
Bias acted out his part very well. It's the fourth foul on Terry Long. 65-62. And here comes Gatlin returning to the Maryland lineup, replacing Terry Long. So you'll have Baxter, Johnson, and Gatlin, some outside shooters for Maryland.
UNLV not going to put anybody down on the free throw line. They're going to keep their players back for defensive purposes.
Armand Gilliam has 15 points, 10 rebounds. And Gilliam, the 6'9" junior from Pittsburgh, PA, is 3 of 3 at the free throw line. UNLV 65, Maryland 62. He's got it. 66-62. You'd think Tark was 4 points down rather than 4 points up. He can't bear to look.
I didn't see the towel. I hope he hasn't swallowed it.
Williams drops in both. 67-62. That might be it. A 5-point lead. UNLV with 22 seconds remaining. Inbounding the ball will be Dickerson for Maryland. Long is back in. So Maryland will have Long and Bias, Baxter, Gatlin, and Dickerson. 67-62, UNLV. I don't know what this discussion is about.
I don't know what the holdup is either.
That's the referee, Joe Forte. And a timeout, I guess, has been called by...
I'll tell you what it is. They had Long in the game, took him out, put someone else in. You cannot take a player out of a game and put him back in until another live ball situation or a dead ball situation after a live ball situation. Long was in, they took him out, then put him back in, but no time had run off the clock.
29 points for Len Bias, 23 points, Anthony Jones. And the Rebels ahead 67-62, the final 20 seconds. Baxter along the baseline, out to Dickerson. The foul will be against Anthony Jones. Or is it going to go that way?
No, Baxter on a charge, Baxter.
And the Rebel fans start to celebrate. UNLV ahead by 5, 67-62. Watch this foul called on Baxter now on the charge.
Watch him go baseline. They sort of open up the baseline for him right here. It was a good move to the inside by Armin Gilliam to let him come across. And guess who the man was that took the charge?
Anthony Jones. Jones, 5 out of 6 at the free throw line, 23 points. We're down to the final 15 seconds. University of Nevada, Las Vegas ahead by 5. Make it 6, 68-62. And what a lustrous performance today by Anthony Jones. Lefty can just mutter to himself and take a walk. 68-62. 69-62.
That one did it for sure.
25 points. An All-America performance by Anthony Jones. Tipped in by Bias. The basket will count. We have 6 seconds left. So we're down to the final 6 here at Long Beach. A 5-point lead. UNLV.
Second half of action has been brought to you by United Airlines. Fly the friendly skies of United, serving more of the nation's top 100 business centers than anyone. You're not just flying, you're flying the friendly skies.
Ron and Rebs are in as we look towards our regional semifinals. We've got game 6:30 on Thursday. That's Eastern time, 7:30 Friday. And by the way, if you're watching for hockey, coming along in just a second, we'll be picking up the Islanders and the Rangers. But Dick Vitale, Rebels control the backboards, handle the ball so very well.
Well, when you control the backboards, you're going to get your transition game going. And they did a great job of taking away any kind of pressure of Maryland. They didn't turn the ball over at all. And you got to credit Anthony Jones played a great game. And Lenny Bias ended his career just a superhuman being. Mr. Superman, who's going to make some NBA coach mighty happy.
We shall be back tomorrow evening, 7:30 Eastern time with a college basketball report. And again, a reminder, we will announce the teams. But Thursday, the remaining knows we are now down to the regional semifinal. Dick, there is really only one true Western team, UNLV. You can make a case, go back a decade. They are the most consistent team west of the Rockies we have seen for the last 10 years.
Jerry Tarkanian's been very consistent, especially since now UCLA, Bob's developed a new tradition, the NIT. They're no longer NCAA. Hey, University of Southern Cal could get there if they hired Gene Bartow. Just get the cash together, Mike McGee, the AD. Bartow would come running, his family in Santa Monica, and I know he loves the coast.
We'll be getting to the game in just a second. It'll be Fred White and Gary Thompson. We will be back at halftime. Enjoy the game.
Year at the helm of the running Rebels, and Sonny Smith in his 9th year at the helm of the Auburn Tigers. Auburn in the NCAA tournament for the 3rd straight year. UNLV in their 7th NCAA tournament and their 4th straight. Auburn in their traveling blue uniforms. Nevada, Las Vegas in home gray, trimmed in red, and Nevada, Las Vegas with a basketball. Anthony Jones.
Back out front to Mark Wade. Auburn immediately sets up in zone.
3-2, and was talking to Sonny Smith, and he said they've been predominantly a man club, but he said he was going to come out in zone, UNLV.
Wade with a lob in the middle, and the shot misses by Armand Gilliam. Auburn takes it away.
Good block off, check off the boards that time by Jeff Moore inside.
From the deep corner, Chris Morris fires and misses. Nevada, Las Vegas trying to dig it out of there, but they kick it away out of bounds, and Auburn gets the basketball back. So we're underway in Houston with West Regional action.
And rebounding is going to be crucial in this basketball game. Auburn's been a strong rebounding club. They've out-rebounded 24 of the 31 opponents. Jerry Tarkanian is worried about that a little bit. His club has been inconsistent on the boards.
Oh, Chuck Person from the top of the circle drills one, and Auburn draws first blood.
We said at the top of the show that he can go inside or outside. There he shows you his range.
Person, a 6'8" senior from Brantley, Alabama, 52% shooter, averaging 21 points a game, and there's the ball taken away. Gerald White, deep corner, Person off the front of the rim. Frank Ford in a rebound battle couldn't come up with it. Now Mark Wade for UNLV. It's knocked loose, intended for Gilliam. Back comes Person.
Poor judgment on the pass that time by Wade, because the defense was sagged way back in there on the break, and he's not a kid that wants to shoot it, so he doesn't penetrate it in and look for the shot.
Jeff Moore, the center, fired from the top of the circle, and he can shoot from there, but he missed that time. Again, Auburn back in the zone. Tigers leading 2-0. Anthony Jones in front to Freddie Banks. Nice feed down inside. The turnaround jump shot, good. Armand Gilliam picks up the first two for the Runnin' Rebels.
Well, Gilliam averaging 15.6 on the year, and the Runnin' Rebels offense, 64% of it comes from Gilliam, Jones, and Banks. And incidentally, we might point out that Banks has been struggling as of late in his shooting, and the Rebels need his outside threat.
Person misses from the corner. Anthony Jones answers from the wing and drills it. Anthony Jones picks up his first two. Nevada, Las Vegas takes a quick 2-point lead.
Well, Anthony Jones, a great shooter, and he's really been hot. The last 5 games, he's averaged 23 points a ball game. That's 5 over his average of 18-1.
Auburn 1 for 5 from the floor in the early going. Nevada, Las Vegas 2 for 3. Person hit the first shot of the game, and now the Tigers have missed 4 straight.
Goodness.
There's the lob to Person.
Also the latter minutes of the first half, and also the shooting, which you correctly analyzed. Auburn couldn't buy an outside shot to begin with.
Bob, anybody that's watched Auburn all year, one of its real weaknesses has been the perimeter jump shot. Other than Person, who's a very streaky shooter, but a great talent. They're a very, very streaky shooting team. However, they got to be very happy now going into the locker room 9 down, because I thought it was getting ready for blowout city. And also psychologically, here's an example of the shot clock, how it is a factor, because you're Sonny Smith now, and you know at Auburn that they have to shoot the ball every 45 seconds, meaning Las Vegas.
Right.
Therefore, you know you're going to get the ball back, so you don't have the fear factor and the panic factor to fear the delay game.
Auburn, one of the 4 SEC teams that are still alive in this championship tournament. As we said at the top of the game, UNLV over the last decade, you'd have to say there is no more consistent true Western team than the Runnin' Rebs. And yes, they can play defense. And at this point right now, looking to move on. And, of course, the other game this evening in the West, what a matchup. Well, how much experience can you cram onto one court when Denny Crum takes on Dean Smith?
You're talking about just a great matchup and a lot of size. I'm reading reports where people say that the big guy hasn't been dominant in the NCAA tournament. Somebody better tell that to Jimmy Boeheim and David Robinson and introduce him to him. But here you're looking at some great big people. Purvis Ellison, the true great freshman center in America, and also Brad Daugherty, some people say will be the first selection of the NBA draft. Right now, you got to think about the great quickness of Louisville. However, I think because of a lot of pride, I think North Carolina, everybody's got them buried, that they're going to somehow gut it out and get the W.
And you're not wearing any Carolina blue tonight anyway. The winner of that game plays the winner of the game. We are engrossed in bringing you with the UNLV Runnin' Rebels leading it by 9 points.
MasterCard. MasterCard International. Master the possibilities.
Welcome back at halftime. I'm Bob Lee, with me Dick Vitale. The other game ongoing this evening in the Southeast, the first of two games to be played tonight at the Omni, has just gone to halftime with Kentucky holding a 4-point lead now. That's a 32-28 halftime lead over Alabama. We'll be updating you on the score throughout the evening on that one. And Alabama, on a couple of occasions, Dick, as we were watching that game, appeared to be on the verge of being blown out, but it didn't happen.
Well, they got such great talent when you're talking about Buck Johnson inside, and also Terry Connor's an outstanding point guard. But I love Kenny Walker. The one great common denominator of Kenny Walker is that he plays with such intensity every time he takes the floor. And really, that reflects the great personality of Mr. Eddie Sutton, because when you talk about a great coaching job, Mike Krzyzewski, Eddie Sutton, and Lou Carnesecca this year, those three guys, to me, 1, 2, and 3, rank as the three great coaching jobs of 1986.
Well, with all due deference to Coach Joe B. Hall, Kenny Walker 3 years into him, he was a tremendous player those years. Coach Hall probably sitting back with his feet up tonight, this time of the year for the first time in a number of years. We're at halftime right now. UNLV 34-25 lead. We will continue right after this word. Points at halftime, along with Dick Vitale. I'm Bob Lee. The game in Atlanta has a 4-point Kentucky lead right now over Alabama. Winner of that Wildcats game will be taking on the winner of the LSU-Georgia Tech game. All right, let's forget, Dick, about the idea, the entire question of home court advantage. It's going to be a Georgia Tech home court, despite the fact Bobby Cremins says it's been sold out for 2 months. Maybe our fans couldn't get a hold of tickets. They can get a hold of the tickets for tonight.
Bobby Cremins could give you all the con job he wants from out of New York City, and he lays all that con. Let me just say this. He knows it's definitely a great advantage because of the travel factor. You don't have to travel. And number 2, they are familiar with the Omni. And number 3, they will have a lot of their fans there. But number 4, the biggest asset they have going is their great starting 5. And the difference will be the big guy again. The big guy will be a factor, John Sally. And I think anytime you go to a tournament like this, Bob, and you got the big guy on your side, you got a great chance of getting that W.
Well, you ticked off 4 reasons why Georgia Tech will win. Let me give you one reason to make Dale Brown's case. This is a team that has overcome so many things. Tigergate, the alleged wiretapping in the AD's office, of course, the chicken pox and the threatened player boycott. So many things have gone down this year for the LSU team. They know what adversity is, and they face it tonight in that second game in Atlanta. Our game right now is at the half. The Rebs leading it by 9. Tomorrow evening, that's a 7:30 Eastern start. The Wolfpack of NC State, they have known what tight squeezes are in this tournament. They had a tight one to start out against Iowa. Then they went, of course, to double overtime against Arkansas Little Rock. So they know exactly what it's like come crunch time in this championship tournament. Iowa State, on the other hand, looked so good on Sunday. Cyclones were not afraid to take it right at Michigan, and they did. So Jim Valvano knows what he's facing.
It's going to be tough against Iowa State because they are so quick. And we are concerned about their pressure defense, too, but we've been facing that a lot lately.
Well, we watched them a little bit against Michigan, and they're sort of similar to Arkansas Little Rock. They're a small team, they're scrappy, and they play real hard, and they have good guards. So I think we're going to have our work cut out for us again.
That game is tomorrow evening. Live, Dick and I will be here at 7:30 Eastern time from the Midwest at Kemper. Now, the other game on the menu tomorrow evening, the winner of the game will be bringing you, takes on the winner of Kansas and Michigan State. Now, there has been so much spoken and written about Scott Skiles. Dick, you and I talked about this on the College Basketball Report beginning of the season when his third arrest occurred back in November, and there is so much written and talked about whether he should be playing, and you've made your feelings known.
Well, Bob, I just absolutely feel there's no way he should be in a uniform playing for Michigan State because he really doesn't epitomize what a student-athlete's all about. I also feel that he should be given a second chance, and that should have been a medical red shirt for 1 year and then gain his eligibility. I don't think the people at Michigan State really have done service to college basketball by putting him on a floor. Nobody denies that Scott Skiles is a great talent. As a pure guard, he does it as well as anybody's done it in many, many a year. But he's certainly a poor example for every youngster out there watching. And driving while intoxicated is very serious. If you don't believe it, just ask some mom and dad that maybe lost a loved one because of it. I'm fed up even talking about it anymore.
All right, we shouldn't. But tomorrow night, NC State takes on Iowa State. Then, of course, Kansas takes on Michigan State. Our game, 7:30 Eastern time. We'll have that action. We'll also be getting back to this game in just a moment with Auburn down by 9. No other sport does a team and a program reflect the personality of a coach more than in college basketball, Dick. A coach can just mold the program and the players and select the players, and you need at this point in the season a team and a program with stability, with confidence, and with an ability to overcome adversity. You see it reflected in some of the coaches.
First of all, you need talent, Bob.
Well,
I definitely got to have the talent, number one, because If you don't have too many Bo Dereks, you got too many Phyllis Dillers, you're in trouble. And you better have some Bo Dereks. But I agree with you. I think like Jimmy Valvano, emotionally, he really gets his team primed at tournament time. And every year, it seems at tournament time, they're making that run. Last year, they were eliminated by Lou Carnesecca and St. John's. But then they had the run where they won the national championship. This year, I don't think many people gave them a shot right now. And yet they have a chance yet to go to the Final Four. Even though I think if they get by Iowa State, there's a team lurking out there by the name of Kansas and Larry Brown, who I think is too strong for the Midwest region.
There's a team in the East, though, whose coach wears the emotion right here, and no one gave him a snowball's chance in Bristol of being there. I'm talking about Cleveland State.
Well, I'll tell you what, Cleveland State has some talent now. All you have to do is switch their jerseys, put them on a school that says, like maybe Georgia or Alabama, and people would give them a respect. Mouse McFadden can play, so do Clinton Smith and Clinton Ramsey.
Rebs are leading it by 9 points. Fred White will continue with Gary Thompson.
This portion of tonight's game is brought to you by UPS. Whether it's for overnight letters or packages, UPS.
Now to Gerald White. White in open court. Latish is there, and the foul called as the bucket won't fall. Boy, White, a great job with penetration that time. He is a good penetrator. Watch him right here. Beats the defense. Low dribble right there. Gets through. Look at the left hand. Passes off. Goes up. Gets hammered on the shot. Doesn't get it down. White came out here disappointed. His teammate couldn't get it down. Look at the little flip. Good job by the lane man right there. Big Jeff Moore coming in. Moore shooting 77% from the lines. We said Auburn a good free throw shooting team. This is where you win or lose them. This charity stripe.
The foul was on Anthony Jones. Jeff Moore, 77% shooter at the line. It falls. A lot of rim.
Look at the tarp right there. He died with that one.
9 points now for Jeff Moore. That one doesn't go. Tip try, no. Person gets it back up. Chris Morris. No, Person got it. Oh, the Tigers staying with it.
Boy, Person feeling it now. Turning to his fans from Auburn who are right back of him there, right in front of him, and urging him on.
Well, the War Eagles simply staying with it on the offensive board. Have opened a 4-point lead. And they'll be at the free throw line.
Well, that's the big difference right here as Moore misses the second free throw, goes up. Morris keeps it aligned. Person in there. Morris again with the shot, doesn't get it. And then Person up off the glass, and he's fouled. Lenny Wirtz coming in there making the call.
Chuck Person on the free throw line. 3-point play. Chuck Person, he has 25. And it's a 5-point lead to Auburn with 1:34 to play.
When the offensive boards have really hurt the running Rebels, particularly in the second half. Good smart play by Jones.
Foul on Chris Morris. That's number 4 on Morris. Anthony Jones sitting on the floor in the corner. Terry Graham back in the lineup now for Nevada, Las Vegas.
You know what's important about that is you're able to kill the clock as they're down by 5, minute 28 to go. Jones, a little spin move there, got him up with a fake and then goes in. Now he gets a chance to get to and deaden the clock at the same time.
Anthony Jones, who just missed 2 free throws, a 77% shooter, goes back to the line for the Rebels. He has 14 points tonight.
The PCAA co-player of the year with Utah's Greg Grant was the tournament MVP, and boy, he misses again.
And the Rebels have missed 4 straight free throw attempts. 62-57. That wasn't a shooting foul.
No, they called it 1-1.
A foul against Gary Graham, his 3rd. And with 1:16 left, Auburn up by 5, and the Tigers will go to the free throw line again. Both clubs in the 1-1. And on a held ball, the possession would belong to Nevada, Las Vegas. The Tigers of Auburn, strong down the stretch. At once down by 14 in the first half, have battled their way back here. And now, Gerald White steps to the line, a 6'1" junior from Augusta, Georgia. Off the heel of the rim. Person keeps it alive. Back to White in the lane. The left-handed layup won't fall, but he's fouled. Oh, Chuck Person doing it all for Auburn right now. It might seem like a little thing, but he simply kept the ball alive in the lane. Armin Gilliam looking on along with Anthony Jones.
Oh, Person 6'8", right here they come, but the ball coming out long, and the guy really had inside position on him. It was just a long rebound, a bad break for UNLV. And then White taking it back up, gets fouled outside. Mark Wade leaves the ball game with his fifth.
And Gerald White steps back to the free throw line. He just missed. He has 6 points. John Flowers, the center, back in now. Gerald White has an uncle who knows something about pressure, Jim Dent, the golfer. He's had putts that probably looked about like that free throw. Same kind of pressure. 7 points now for White. 1:13 left in the game. Auburn up by 6. Make it 7. Gerald White got them both. And Nevada, Las Vegas going to have to get it done in a hurry. Fred Banks is going to be a blocking foul. Whoa. Oh, and Charlie Baca, the official, just hit the deck, but he's okay. His feet slipped out from underneath him. He's all right. Armin Gilliam helping him off the floor. With his parents. Maybe the best player ever to come out of the state of Nevada. Nevada, Las Vegas, the last team in the West still alive in the NCAA tournament. In danger of extinction here. Eldridge Hudson returns the lineup for the Rebels.
Jerry Tarkanian getting in a better defensive player as they'll go on the defensive end right now, try and get a turnover.
Banks gets them both. He has 20 points. Auburn up by 5 with the basketball. 1:11 left in the game. Pressure on. Moore dropped it. Now the center dribbling in open court.
Got a wide open.
Ford, he's wide open.
Good job by Frank Ford. They always say that he comes up with a key play in the game, and there is a big one.
Auburn by 7. Fred Banks misses. Loose ball battle. Out of bounds to Nevada, Las Vegas with 51 seconds left.
Well, UNLV has hit a stretch in this game, the second half, particularly their shooting. As I mentioned earlier, they just have not shot well in NCAA tournament play.
Nevada, Las Vegas just 5 for 10 at the free throw line. And it's really hurt them down the stretch. They missed 4 straight in one stretch here in the second half.
Got to get some in, use some timeouts, deaden the clock.
Anthony Jones down in the middle to Armin Gilliam, turnaround jumper. Now the Rebels having tough luck, Gary.
Yep, so sure are.
And the foul goes against Nevada, Las Vegas against Gary Graham. That'll be his 4th. 44 seconds left in the game. Auburn up by 7. Again, Graham's 4th foul. Auburn in this half, 78% at the line. Nevada, Las Vegas, just 4 for 8.
Well, that sums it up right there. Free throw is so important as you go down the stretch. You get to the Sweet 16. These teams are so close that it's shooting, free throw shooting. Well, that's where it makes the difference.
And it's Chuck Person, an 82% shooter with 25 points in this game. The 6'8" senior. He had a cousin who can tell him something about what it feels like to win a championship. Dwayne McClain from Villanova. That one doesn't fall. Nevada, Las Vegas up in a hurry. Banks lost it. Picked up by Anthony Jones. In and out.
Everything's in and out for the running Rebels right now.
36 seconds left in the game. The Rebels simply cannot get a shot to fall down the stretch. Sonny Smith looking on from down in front of the Auburn bench. If Jerry Tarkanian calls a timeout. 36 seconds left in this ball game. Auburn 66, Nevada, Las Vegas 59. We'll be right back. Coming in the second half, they were close at halftime.
Well, we just gave, I think officially, this is what we were handed on the rebounds, which is a greater difference, 36-21, but there you get the turnovers.
Auburn with 31 second chance points now. Nevada, Las Vegas with 18 in this contest. The Nevada, Las Vegas cheerleaders, perhaps a little sad as it comes down to the stretch. The Rebels with another splendid season. 33-4 right now, but in grave danger of being closed out here. There are those second chance points we spoke of.
Well, they need a break. They need to catch a foul coming in. You got to hope that Auburn misses. They can come down and convert, use a timeout again, and make the best advantage possible out of those 30 seconds.
Nevada, Las Vegas now out of timeout. Sonny Smith of Auburn has 1 left. Again, Auburn up by 5. 30 seconds left in the game. Auburn with the ball. The arrow belongs to Nevada, Las Vegas. Jerry Tarkanian.
Fred, officially now we got there, as you said, 0 timeouts for UNLV, so it's going to be tough right now to come back. If you got some timeouts, you can deaden that clock, but
They're really got their work cut out. Take a miracle right now if Auburn could just handle the basketball at all.
Rebels have to force turnovers now. Person trying to get it inbounds. Does to Gerald White, and he's fouled immediately. It's going to be a 1-and-1. The foul charge to Fred Banks, his second. That stops the clock with 29 seconds left. Gerald White, who just hit 2 free throws, a 72% shooter, headed for the foul line. And the problem now, down as much as they are, all good free throw shooters in the lineup now for Auburn. Everybody except Morris over 70%. Morris is a 65%. And you really can't be selective who you foul anyway. When you're down by 5, you have to get the first guy you can. That's free throw good. He's hit 3 in a row, and he has 9 points in the game now.
Well, things are difficult enough for UNLV, but if he nails this one, that puts him on 4 possessions that they have to get, and I'd say that puts the game away right there.
Gerald White hit 4 straight. Sonny Smith likes it. 29 seconds left. Auburn up by 7 over Nevada, Las Vegas. Graham down way out on the wing. Can't get it. Takes it behind his back or loses it. Picked up by Frank Ford. Gerald White deep in the backcourt. Fouled by Armin Gilliam. The first foul on Armin Gilliam. The hammer gave him just a little tap that time. 16 seconds left in this ball game.
I know we talked there at halftime about Sonny Smith that he'd have to feel pretty good if he could stay under double figures the way they were shooting, because they've been a good shooting ball club. And you see the disappointing on the running Rebels as their season is going to come to a close. 33-4 going in. A great year.
You can see the contrast in the benches. The despair along the Nevada Las Vegas bench, the happiness on the Auburn bench. Gerald White hits his 5th straight free throw, and the Southeast Conference banner continues to fly high.
Auburn bench just a little bit more reserved than I thought, but at this point they know that they've got things made.
6 straight free throws for Gerald White. Now a 9-point lead for Auburn, the Tigers' biggest lead of the game.
They'll get the winner of North Carolina, Louisville, coming up in the second half of this doubleheader.
We're at the Summit in Houston. 8 seconds left in the game, and Auburn is going to advance to the round of 8. Jump shot good that time by Armin Gilliam.
They just let the clock run right here, run it right out as there's on 5 seconds.
It's over. Auburn has advanced, defeating Nevada, Las Vegas 70-63. Sonny Smith seeing his club tonight go to 22-10 on the year. Jerry Tarkanian, his Rebels closing it out at 33-5, and he can manage a smile here. 70-63. Auburn has defeated Nevada, Las Vegas. Sonny Smith with hugs all around.
So Auburn down in the first half by 14 points, wins it by 7. Back with Dick Vitale. I'm Bob Lee. We continue our live coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship tomorrow evening, 7:30 Eastern Time. We've got North Carolina State and Iowa State. You need a dominating gamer of a ball player to win at this time of the year, and certainly Chuck Person is that for Auburn. He showed us that tonight with 25 points and 7 rebounds, Dick. Sonny Smith, last year, a lot of emotion because he'd announced his resignation. There isn't that overlying Cinderella quality this year, but still a lot of feeling for what he's done with this team, which started the season abysmally.
Well, it started off with a real blowout right here in Hartford, Connecticut at the Hartford Civic Center when he was blown out by Gail Catlett's Mountaineers of West Virginia. But he's an interesting guy, exciting guy, and an entertaining kind of guy. Loves to strum the guitar, a little bit like Don Williams. Loves to race cars. In fact, he's good buddies at Dale Earnhardt, worked in his pits. This guy is one of the real characters, and he's really one of the funny men. But I'll tell you what, he has a great rapport with his players. Right now, down at Auburn, it's party time. Move over Bo Jackson, move over Pat Dye. The new Kings hoop hysteria belongs to the Auburn basketball team.
And Auburn is into the round of 8. Now, there's another game ongoing this evening, the first of 2 at the Omni in Atlanta, with just about a minute to go in this game. Now, Kentucky has a comfortable lead of 65-57, a minute 5, we understand now in that game. It's actually a 10-point Kentucky lead. So now, let's plug in and see where we stand. Auburn the winner over UNLV in our game this evening. Auburn is to the round of 8, and the payday approaches $700,000 per school. And once you get to the round of 8, later tonight, North Carolina and Louisville, winners play in the West at the Summit in Houston. That'll be on Saturday. Now, in the Southeast, of course, Kentucky should be winning this game. They have the 10-point lead with about a minute to go. Winner of that game takes on the winner of LSU and Georgia Tech. That game is happening this evening at the Omni in Atlanta. And LSU had cut a lot of flack about the double overtime win over Purdue and the buzzer shot win over Memphis State in Baton Rouge. So now it's a different situation. It's essentially the Georgia Tech home court. Earlier tonight, Alan Massengale talked to Dale Brown about that.
They're a great team, and if you play them here, Opelousas, Baton Rouge, Atlanta, or the Moon, they're still a great team. Obviously, there's an advantage playing at home. But we've got to eliminate from our minds, or then it's a reason to lose.
Now we've got your pregame speech, Coach. We want to know. You're going against a team that many say have the best starting five, and you've got John Williams, who has been dominant. What are you saying as you go in? What have you got to do against Georgia Tech?
Well, there's several things we must do. We must continually mix up defenses on them. We can't overpower them. There's no question about that. They were everybody's preseason #1. Price and Sally made everybody's preseason All-American team. Ellen, they got 4 Rookies of the Year in a row out of the ACC. But that's a talent, but so is hustle and heart. We've had a lot of that. We've got to match that with our defenses and controlled play. And who knows, maybe we'll be in the Final 8.
That guy can look down the barrel of a gun and find something to smile about.
You know, Dale never has any personnel. John Williams was only America's guest. Everybody in the nation wanted John Williams, and he's the most versatile performer in the Southeastern Conference. He's such a multi-dimensional athlete. But I definitely give the edge in that game to Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech's great starting 5, and with John Sally inside and Mark Price, I think Price is going to have a big game.
All right, and let's update you the other half of the country. We've shown you the Midwest, or actually the Southeast and the West, but Duke and DePaul play tomorrow at the Meadowlands in the East, and Cleveland State and Navy. This is the region with all the storylines developing. DePaul with their 12 losses, and the Vikings, of course, and David Robinson and Navy. In the Midwest, Kansas has to find a way to stop Scott Skiles and Michigan State. North Carolina State and Iowa State is our game at 7:30 Eastern Time tomorrow evening. So our game tomorrow night will provide an interesting coaching matchup. Johnny Orr's already proven the point against Michigan. Now he goes against Jim Valvano.
Johnny Orr's national championship was beating Michigan. You better believe he was on cloud 9 after getting that W, because he felt he never was loved at Michigan. He felt never appreciated. He wanted a big contract. They wouldn't give him the big contract. He went to Iowa State, and they rolled it out for Johnny Orr, and he's done a fantastic job.
#2 team this year in the Big 8 conferences, and they've already knocked off the #1 team of the Big 10. So it's going to get a little testy in the summer on the camps around the Midwest about which league was best. It may have already been proven the Big 8 is.
Hey, Bob, Jeff Grayer's an outstanding underrated player from out of Flint, Michigan. And we talked about Flint, Michigan, and all the great players that are really coming out of Flint. And Grayer's one of your real surprise players in the nation in terms of recognition. He doesn't get any, and he really deserves it.
Again, the final seconds of the Kentucky game, a comfortable lead for the Wildcats, so they'll be moving on to the round of 8. A reminder, tomorrow evening, 7:30 Eastern Time, North Carolina State and Iowa State at 7:30 Eastern Time, and we will be here for our final studio edition of the College Basketball Report next Monday at 7:30 Eastern Time. Then it's on to the Big D, and I'll see you there in the lobby. You'll be doing some lobby
I'll be
sitting,
working
right?
in that lobby. Hey, I'm going to write also down there for the Dallas Times-Herald. Big scribe now. You better be good to me.
Okay, it's on to Dallas Destination Dallas. We'll see you tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern Time.
Imagine being
the tournament. If the game gets into a half-court game, obviously it favors the big guy down inside, Robinson. But if McFadden and Ramsey and Smith and that gang can make it a full-court 94-foot game, well, then naturally the tempo will favor Cleveland State. I happen to believe that the guards of Navy can make it a half-court game. They were able to do it against Syracuse, and they like to run a little bit also. And I think with Robinson's presence inside, I'm going to go Navy tonight.
We could have a rather eclectic grouping of coaches in the Final Four. Kevin Mackey, if he gets to Dallas, of course, you've got Dale Brown also, and Jim Valvano and Sonny Smith to play rhythm guitar for the country and Western Band.
And all you need is Al McGuire and myself down there to interview these four, and we would have a ball. Hey, can you believe Dallas if Dale Brown arrives? Get ready for some Billy Graham Crusades at its best. But you know what? He's got a date with Kentucky.
Fourth time around. That game, of course, is coming up on the weekend. So we'll be back on the half hour. We've got NC State and Iowa State and updates on Navy against the Vikings, gentlemen.
All right, Bob and Dick, and of course we will tune you in on another Neil Diamond song a little bit later on. Of course, they're talking about one of those games at the Meadowlands in East Rutherford, New Jersey. That's the Navy-Cleveland State game. DePaul. Not often they're Cinderella, Greg, but that's what they are tonight against Duke.
Exactly. Joey Meyer under a lot of heat all year long, but suddenly at the Brendan Byrne Arena, it's Blue Demons and Blue Devils tonight. Duke and DePaul, and standing by at the Brendan Byrne Arena in the Meadowlands is Jim Rose for a little preview. Hello, Jim.
Hi, Greg. How are you? And I'll tell you, just listening to the predictions, you know, everybody's asking, do you go out on a limb and do you pick the DePaul Blue Demons? Let me give you a little history quickly. 1979, DePaul went into the Final Four in Salt Lake City. They beat Marquette, they beat Southern California, and they went in and they beat UCLA. Now they come to 1986. They've already won 2 games everybody said they could not win, and they'll go up against the #1 ranked team in the country, the Duke Blue Devils. To beat them, they're going to have to go inside. Rod Strickland, the outstanding freshman, is going to have a great game from the outside. Can DePaul do it? I said no 2 times before. I think maybe this time I'm going to have to go out on a limb and say yes. It'll be the Blue Demons over the Blue Devils. Live from the Brendan Byrne Arena in the Meadowlands, this is Jim Rose reporting. Greg, Chris?
All right, thank you very much, Jim. If he's correct, that's going to be a 7-point victory over UNLV, qualified the Tigers for their first ever regional final. Jim Gray says tomorrow's matchup will make for interesting comparisons.
Louisville's and Auburn's styles on the court in many areas are very similar, but their approaches are quite different.
The Louisville Cardinals, easygoing, comfortable, used to all the attention. Auburn, on the other hand, well-groomed, businesslike, just happy to be a part of it all. But don't let that fool you.
Louisville doesn't mind projecting the relaxed country club image, while Auburn has the corporate look, at least for now.
That's the difference between experience and tradition, and just happy to be there. That's basically what it is. I would have preferred to show up in a warm-up. Maybe next year, if I can get back, I'll do that.
It's nice outside. It's like 80 degrees, as you said. It's not like that in Louisville. So it's a chance for us to wear some sunglasses, and chill out a little bit after a nice win and savor it.
By game time, however, everyone will have uniforms on. Both teams like to run, and each say they will. Therefore, the key will be Auburn's massive front line. And from the opening tap, they say they will try and establish their physical superiority.
We have a few fouls to give underneath, and we're going to give them. We're going to crash both ends of the backboards and try to not let them get in the fast break basket. We feel like we can pit man for man against them.
Do you think they might waste a couple fouls to establish their physical presence?
I don't think they'll intentionally waste any, but they might not be willing to give up much inside.
Push and shove, is that going to intimidate them?
We're going to be physical, as always.
But that tough approach doesn't seem to concern Louisville, as at least for today it was time to relax and be friendly with tomorrow's foes. Jim Gray, ESPN, Houston.
As to the game at hand, the Cyclones in the dark uniforms, NC State in the light uniforms. This is how the first half unfolded. Gary Tompkins here drives the baseline, dishes to Sam Hill, who hits off the glass. Cyclones up by a deuce, but then the Wolfpack go to work. Charles Shackelford will get the lob, bounce it once, lay it in. Wolfpack up by 4. Midway through that first half, Ernie Myers to Shackelford. A 3-point play makes it a 9-point NC State lead. Talked about Shackelford and Washburn doing the job on the front court. Look at the double pump by the sophomore. Good hanging move at 6'11", and an 11-point margin for NC State. And Coach V, the ever entrepreneurial Coach V, with a 40-29 lead. And Jimmy likes many things. Those schemes, of course, the things to keep money coming into the coffers. But right now he's got an 11-point lead. We're at halftime.
The NCAA Tournament seemed to bring out the worst in Ray Meyer's DePaul teams. In 1981, DePaul, the #1 ranked team of the nation, was upset by St. Joseph's. In 1984, Ray Meyer's last season at DePaul, they were eliminated by Wake Forest in overtime, losing on this basket. Ray left frustrated and passed the coaching reins on to his son, Joey. Joey has struggled trying to replace his legendary father. In fact, earlier this season, many doubted DePaul would even be selected for the NCAA tournament. But they were, and this year as an underdog, DePaul has turned the tables on its opponents. Is it possible that Joey might help DePaul overcome their past tournament failures? DePaul has met every tournament challenge thus far, but now they must face the ultimate test, the Blue Devils of Duke. Duke's the ACC champions and the #1 ranked team in the nation. They're a powerhouse that features college basketball's top backcourt. Tommy Amaker and this man, Johnny Dawkins, Duke's all-time leading scorer. The Duke players and their fans are expecting nothing less than a national championship. Can DePaul deny them a trip to the Final Four, or will Duke fulfill what they believe to be their destiny? Welcome to the Meadowlands in East Rutherford, New Jersey, for the semifinal game in the East Regional between the Blue Demons of DePaul and the Blue Devils of Duke. Hi, everybody. I'm Gary Bender. The consensus of opinion was that DePaul, with a 16-12 regular season mark, would not get into the 64-team field. They did, and two surprising victories later, they have a crack tonight at the #1 ranked team in the country, the Duke Blue Devils. And Doug Collins, they look at this as a real opportunity.
Gary, when you look at DePaul, Joey Meyer changed his lineup for the 13th time on the last regular season game against Marquette. He's got 4 seniors starting now. They don't want their season to end. On top of that, you've got to add Dallas Comagese as coming off the bench and giving him the offense, but more importantly, mentally, he's accepted that role.
Doug, Duke has had an outstanding year. They're the #1 seed, the top-ranked team in the country, the longest winning streak in the country at 18. Yet, if they would lose tonight, they might consider this an unsuccessful season.
When you talk about Duke, you talk about a well-balanced ball club. Everybody knows about Johnny Dawkins and Mark Allery. They're all Americans. They're well-balanced. They love to play pressure, man-to-man defense, force you to get into an up-tempo basketball game.
The first meeting ever between Duke and DePaul. We'll be back with introduction of the starting lineups for the semifinal game in just a moment.
Tonight's East Regional semifinal game is sponsored by Mercedes-Benz. Engineered like no other car in the world. Exceptionally smooth Michelob. Where you're going, it's Michelob. And by Michelin. Michelin, because so much is riding on your tires.
North Carolina State over Iowa State by 4. The Wolfpack dominated inside. It was Chris Washburn with 20. Here he is on the follow. Jim Valvano only 1 game away from going back to the Final Four. Now sit back and enjoy DePaul against Duke. Let's go back to the Meadowlands and rejoin Gary Bender.
DePaul and Duke squaring off against each other in the semifinal game in the East Regional. And now for the announcement of the starting lineups, the public address announcer, Dom Alagia.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Brendan Byrne Arena for this evening's Eastern Regional semifinal game between the DePaul Blue Demons and the Blue Devils of Duke. Now let's meet the starting lineups. For DePaul, at forward, a 6'11 senior from Chicago, Illinois, number 32, Lamont Lampley. For Duke, at forward, a 6'5 senior from Drury, North Carolina, number 12, David Henderson. For DePaul, at forward, a 6'8 senior from Los Angeles, California, number 34, Kevin Holmes. For Duke, at forward, a 6'8 senior from Scottsdale, Arizona, number 32, Mark Allery. For DePaul, at center, a 6'9 senior from Flint, Michigan, number 51, Marty Embry. For Duke, at center, a 6'8 senior from Rolling Hills, California, number 21, Jay Phillips. For DePaul, at guard, a 6'3 freshman from Bronx, New York, number 10, Rod Strickland. For Duke, at guard, a 6-foot junior from Falls Church, Virginia, number 4, Tommy Amaker. For DePaul, at guard, a 6'5 senior from San Francisco, California, number 20, Tony Jackson. For Duke, at guard, a 6'2 senior from Washington, D.C., number 24, Johnny Dawkins. And introducing the head coaches for DePaul in his 2nd season, Joey Meyer. For Duke in his 6th season, Mike Krzyzewski.
back with the opening tip in for DePaul.
Well, and I think that for DePaul to win this ball game, they got to handle the pressure defense of Duke, the tough man-to-man pressure. They must get on the boards, use their physical strength inside, and they must get back well defensively against this Duke fast break.
On the other hand, for Duke,
Duke wants to get into an up-tempo game. They do that with their defense. They want to contain Comegys off the bench, and they want to get to the boards and stay out of foul trouble on the inside.
after the tip, Duke will be awarded the basketball. While Duke has won 18 in a row, DePaul has won 3, a season-ending victory that was very important to get to the tournament. They beat Marquette, and then they continued on to defeat Virginia and Oklahoma in Greensboro.
Gary, right now we see DePaul opening up in man-to-man defense. I think they'll maybe show it a couple possessions, but look for them to get back into a zone early in this game.
The all-ACC forward, Mark Allery, has it stripped away by Tony Jackson. Holmes brings it out. Here comes Jackson to Rod Strickland. Strickland off to Lamone Lampley. He misses, and Holmes follows, and DePaul is on the board.
Well, there's that inside power we spoke of DePaul. Lamone Lampley with a missed jumper, but a strong rebound by Kevin Holmes for the easy follow-up layup.
They are a big-time powerhouse club inside, and that concerns Duke as Allery misses. Billis follows. Jay Billis, 6'8" senior, out of Rolling Hills, California, ties it up.
Well, the way this game has started out, this game is going to be decided in the trenches. Both teams really going to the boards here early.
Duke coming into this tournament. Impressive win over Old Dominion University. Had a scare against Mississippi Valley State. Here is Johnny Dawkins on the break. And Duke has a 4-2 lead.
Rod Strickland, a tough lean-in jumper. It didn't go. The problem there was poor floor balance by DePaul. Nobody back to stop the defense. They've got to use good floor balance. Someone's got to be back defensively.
And it goes to Holmes, broken up by Billis. Dawkins, and there's that balance you were talking about a while ago, Doug. They missed the easy layup. Dawkins to follow. Amaker has it, and it'll be off of DePaul. So twice they haven't had anybody back.
Well, Tommy Amaker right that time was very casual on that layup. We see Coach Joey Meyer went in there sort of nonchalantly, missed an easy left-handed layup.
Mike Krzyzewski, the ACC Coach of the Year, the National Coach of the Year, according to UPI, is Dawkins from outside. Walking off well is Kevin Holmes.
We saw right there a zone defense by DePaul. They don't want to play Duke man-to-man. There's no way they can match up with them, especially at the guard position.
Marty Embry has played so well in tournament play. And we're going to have a foul away from the ball. The foul was going to go on Billis. It'll be his first. 4 seniors in the starting lineup. As you mentioned at the top of this broadcast, 13 different lineups, but this seems to be the best of all of those.
Well, I think the key there is not only do you have the seniors in the lineup, but Dallas Comegys, who's such a factor for this ball club, didn't go into the tank. He accepted the role and has come off the bench and likes the spotlight.
And there's a turnover. Lamone Lampley, one of those seniors, second turnover against the Blue Demons. Krzyzewski was a player at Army, later the head coach at 28 years of age. And now in his 6th year as head coach of the Blue Devils, 3 straight 21 seasons. Dawkins reach around by Tony Jackson batting it away as they jump into that zone again. Inside. Stolen by Embry. Off it comes to Rod Strickland. He grew up in the shadows of Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Holmes tries to put it down. Tough shot. Doesn't get it. Billis has it ripped away, and Tony Jackson has fouled it. You can see, we saw DePaul earlier in the year, Doug. You can see DePaul playing a lot more confidence. They have their game up about 2 clicks in intensity.
This is not even the same ball club that I saw early in the year. We see Dallas Comegys on the bench mentally preparing himself to come in the ball game, but they seem a step quicker, they seem livelier, and they seem more confident.
Right now, Duke with a 4-2 lead. Allery, an outstanding outside shooter. Dawkins rips it down, the 6'2 senior out to Amaker. Dawkins, the all-time leading scorer. Duke travel to the ball. So both teams having some problems mechanically in the early going. A little of the excitement of this action. As you can see, the shooting not very good. Here's the guy, a big key. Rod Strickland, averaging 14 points a game, the leading scorer, and he's going to have to handle that pressure of Amaker in his face all night long.
Yeah, he must get DePaul in their offense.
Embry on the base, drives in. Holmes You talk about some beef. You get Emery and Holmes in, there's not a lot of room.
Mike Krzyzewski there wanted a double dribble. He had felt that Marty Embry had already used up his dribble. Jay Billups bellied up against him. Marty Embry drove right around him baseline, dished off for the easy dunk.
Amaker, their assist man, their point guard. He makes it all start. He's the catalyst. Off to Henderson. Here's Allery. Allery's become a complete player this year, and he is fouled by Lamone Lampley. That'll be his first. Second team foul against the Blue Demons.
Here's the last DePaul basket. Marty Embry driving baseline. Henderson trying to take the charge. No go. And Kevin Holmes punctuating it with a slam dunk.
Lampley with the foul, giving the ball to Duke out of bounds. Here is Dawkins, so quick. Krzyzewski said there's only so many Johnny Dawkins. Allery nails it. He is fun to watch.
He's such a flexible player. He can score inside for you. Actually, though, he likes playing on the perimeter a little more. He likes that 15-foot jumper, and he likes to use his quickness when big people come out and contest him on the perimeter.
He's put his inside and outside game together this year. Dawkins tracks it down. And it is tough in there. Coming out of there is Lampley. Paul is playing some tough defense.
What's impressed me is they're getting back quickly on turnovers. They're not giving Duke the breaks after they force the steals.
There's Jackson out of the San Francisco area. Wide open is Embry. He lost it. Strickland saves it somehow. Nice change, and he gets it to go. And I cannot get over what a different DePaul team this is in the opening minutes of this game. 6-all. They're playing like they have a purpose. We saw them earlier when they were very tentative, didn't expect anything to drop. That's not the case thus far. Here is Henderson, who's getting some real toughness. A six-man a year ago, and we're going to have a foul as Lampley really pickled that one out of bounds.
Let's watch the play. Marty Embry goes up strong. He's stripped down low by Henderson. And here's Rod Strickland stepping in, using his body. Little double pumper there on Mark Allery. He gets a score, and then...
The foul is on Holmes. It was Lampley that blocked it, but Holmes had committed the foul. Lampley's a fly swatter. He'll go up and he'll knock him around a lot. The third team foul against DePaul as Henderson to the line. Out of Drury, North Carolina, population of 200. Not even listed on a map, and he misses a free throw. He's a good free throw shooter, shooting 75% on the year. Henderson, a co-captain, second team All-ACC. You might recall he was the most valuable player in that preseason NIT. 7-6 Duke. Duke with a remarkable record of 34-2. The record for victories is 36 by Kentucky, set in 1948. Here is Strickland on the move. Three men crash the boards, but Dawkins comes up with it.
DePaul was all over the offensive board. They actually knocked the ball away from each other, going at it so aggressively.
It's that power game that concerns Krzyzewski. Coach K, as he's affectionately known. We've played 5 minutes in this game. Duke leads by 1. Hamilton from outside. Rebound. Home. Out it comes to Jackson. Jackson to pull up with one. Rebound. Lampley. They are crashing everything. And it goes. I think Krzyzewski thought there was some interference on that one, as one of the DePaul players looked like he had his hand up in the rim, or at least the net area.
Well, Mike Krzyzewski told us yesterday they've got to do a good job on the offensive boards. Right now, DePaul hammering them on the offensive glass. Duke has got to block out. This is a quick, leaping DePaul team.
Ball is 4 of 10 from the field. Duke 3 of 9. Turnover against the Blue Devils, 5 of them. Substitutions. Danny Ferry will be coming in for Duke. Also coming in, Billy King. We have a timeout. Duke trails by 1.
In New York, and Duke in front by 5 at halftime. Johnny Dawkins, good first half with 15. Your thoughts?
Well, good defense. Of course, they're getting their shots. They're good in the open floor. They're difficult to handle.
All right, Bill. In Kansas City, they have just reached halftime between Michigan State and Kansas. Spartans had to go the final 6 minutes of the first half with their #1 competitor, Scott Skiles, on the bench with 3 fouls. Skiles really shut down with only 8 points in the first half. Again, he's got 3 fouls. Foul trouble on Kansas's end of the court, too, Bill.
Well, it hurts them. Danny Manning, who makes plays, passes well here, turnaround jump shot, and scores.
And right now, the Jayhawks with a 9-point lead at the intermission. The winner of that game will go on and play Sunday for the championship of the Midwest against North Carolina State. The Wolfpack just too strong inside. Winners by 4 over Iowa State. Now, coming up tonight, 12:30 Eastern Time, the battle of the 2 Cinderellas, Cleveland State against Navy. And the road to the Final Four will continue on CBS in just a moment.
The Jayhawks from Kansas, the Sunflower State, this has been a season in the sun. One of the best in the history of the school with a rich basketball tradition. The home of the Jayhawks, Allen Fieldhouse, is named in honor of a Kansas legend, their longtime coach, Phog Allen. One of basketball's great pioneers, Allen's own mentor here in Lawrence was none other than the man who invented the game, Dr. James Naismith. Naismith always intended it to be a simple and casual game. Just toss the ball in the peach basket and have some fun. In fact, he once accused Phog Allen of taking his new game too seriously.
Dr. Naismith, I remember, told Dad that very early in his career as a coach, that basketball couldn't be coached, it was just to be played.
Come on, boys, this is it. Let's go, come on!
But Phog Allen did coach basketball for nearly 4 decades at Kansas. Home games then were played here in Old Hoke Auditorium, and Mitt Allen was privileged to play on one of his dad's best teams. That was in the mid-1930s, when the country was in the grip of the Great Depression, and in addition to that hardship, Kansas had to contend with the vile dust storms that swept through the Farm Belt, destroying crops and wrecking lives. That was a long time ago, but the link between Kansas farmers and Phog Allen's basketball teams goes back even farther. When you were a boy growing up on this farm, how did you follow Kansas basketball?
Oh, let's go back to the early 1920s when we listened to the basketball game by the Crystal Radio, which was brand new at that time, quite an innovation. Well, we remember listening on our radio to Kansas defeating Missouri 16-14. Some score, huh?
Arthur Heck has lived through dramatic changes, not only in basketball, but in farming as well.
When I was a kid, one man would go out and pick by hand 40 to 60 or 75 bushel of corn. One man today take one of our modern combines and pick anywhere from 8, 10 to 12,000 bushel of corn shelled.
But such improvements have not always led to a better life. In fact, the Farm Belt is now going through the worst crisis to hit the region since the 1930s. A rising tide of debts has forced thousands of farmers to give up their land, and some even predict that farming, as a productive way of life, will never be the same again. But longtime Kansas farmers have heard that gloomy song before.
Bankruptcy and losing of the farms, and you know, back in the Depression days, we had that problem too. We thought that was the end of the world, but we got out of it.
They're a hardy breed of survivors, these Kansas farmers, and don't bet against them making it through this latest ordeal, too. As for the state's other great tradition, this year's Kansas team brings honor to the school's rich heritage that dates back to the game's founding father and the coach he inspired. As for the future, the son of Phog Allen has taken care of that, passing the ball to his son and from him on to the next generation. For CBS Sports, I'm Gary Paul Gates.
Duke with the halftime lead of 37-32. Doug Collins and off this.
You can't ask for a better leader than Skiles.
He was yelling at Larry Pollock. Now he yells across, and they'll start the play with 15 left on the shot clock. 78-74. Vernon Carr back to Skiles. Skiles with 18 points tonight, well below his average, but hampered by fouls. From the corner, Barry Fordham. 15 points on a 7 of 9 shooting performance for the 6'8 junior from Buffalo, New York. Cedric Hunter counters. 80-76, under a minute to go. This Michigan State team knocked off Washington 72-70. They defeated Georgetown after finishing 3rd in the Big Ten. They are playing the 2nd-ranked team in the country. And they lead by 4 with 37 seconds to go.
Well, this is a good ball handling team out there from Michigan State.
20 seconds to go. And the foul called to the baseline with 27 seconds left.
Vern, the key is to go back to the first half when Scott Skiles left the game with 3 fouls, sat on the bench for 7 minutes. Kansas could not capitalize. Michigan State only went down by an extra point, and they were more than able to make that up.
27 seconds remaining. Mark Turgeon has come in. Scott Skiles, hampered with 3 fouls. He's been important tonight, but how can you overlook the play of Barry Fordham with 7 of 9, a man who is averaging 2.4 points per game. And
absolutely can.
And he picks this game with Skiles in foul trouble to hit 7 of 9 from the field. And a career high of 15 points. His previous career high was 8.
The key for him is that they were not down by a big margin also to make that happen.
There's the follow that goes. Timeout is called. This game. Had the clock not stayed still at the 2:20 mark for at least 15 seconds, that clock almost would have wound down. But it was never corrected, and Kansas is now out of its timeout. That will be the subject of a lot of conversation, because I don't know whether it was a mechanical malfunction or an oversight, but Judd Heathcote is going to have some words to say about that. The clock did not start 2:20 for a good 15 seconds, and now officially 20 seconds left. Here are the ones you don't want to foul. Skiles and Pollock leading the list. They'll probably go after Vernon Carr, but even he is hitting 70%. Oh, Michigan State called timeout right before the 5 seconds expired. Skiles quickly looked over at Bobby Dibler and screamed, timeout.
Awfully close.
It was really close. So now what, Mr. Brown?
There's no choice that Kansas has but to foul as quickly as possible. With 20 seconds left, they've got to get to Carr as quickly as possible. Carr is having a good game, and even he, as you mentioned before, shooting 69%. He's having a good game. I believe that emotionally they're playing extremely well. Preferably if they could come up with the steal and avoid fouling altogether, it would work a lot better for them.
Michigan State had a surge in the second half when Kansas went ice cold, hitting 38% coming out of the gates. Kansas led by 9 at the half. And James Brown pointed out with about 2 minutes to go in the first half that if Michigan State could go to the halftime locker room trailing by no more than 9, they were still in the game, and boy, they proved you right.
Which is why also the effort that Barry Fordham has put in, while it has absolutely been sensational, and he definitely is a key man, the key man for Michigan State in the second half. They did not have that big a deficit to make up as they should have with Danny Manning on the bench in the first half.
If you want to talk about an unlikely hero in a Midwestern Regional Championship game, you could look no farther than Barry Fordham, junior out of Buffalo, New York. His career high 8 points, but he is 7 of 9 tonight from the field, and he's done a terrific job defensively on Greg Dreiling.
Boy, the words of Coach Larry Brown certainly ring true now. He says, while we plan to do the job on Skiles and Johnson, we cannot afford to let anyone else on the team have a big game, and that's exactly what's happening with Fordham.
You saw the possession arrow showing Kansas way. Skiles inbound, gets it back to Brown, 1-1. The clock is still running now. It's down to 13.
They're really having some problems with that clock.
It'll go back to 19 seconds. Judd Heathcote is going to get into this argument, and his argument will be it's probably now where it should be.
He wants to let the clock run. Well, you talk about a coach not losing the feel of the game and having to stay on top of a number of elements. Judd Heathcote certainly showed that he was a good bench coach and staying on top of everything. When he saw that clock, he was right on top of it.
They have reset the clock at 19 seconds. And Mark Brown, the freshman, is at the line. He's hitting 87% of his free throws for the year. 13 of 15 for the season. And 81% in the final 4 minutes. Freshman from Hastings, Michigan. And Kansas with a chance to tie. Calvin Thompson. The tip is good. Want to welcome those of you watching Duke DePaul, final shot of the game. They're going to overtime. up at 80. But let's not forget the case of the missing 15 seconds. Always keep that in perspective when remembering what happened in this game with 2:20 remaining in the game. The clock did not start for, we're going to guess, 15 seconds. And Kansas has tied it up, James Brown, 80-80.
The old expression that it's not over until it's over certainly rang true. You gotta really like the fact that the Kansas ball players continue to push it towards the end. The quick leaping ability of Archie Marshall. I talked before about his legs. I thought having left him early in the game, but at the most important part of the game, it did not. As you take a look at Archie Marshall, number 23, he's going to hit the boards hard. Nobody blocked him out, and he goes up for the rebound. Nice control. Talk about those practice habits coming into play, and then they put 2 men on Scott Skiles.
Skiles took the last shot, as we all knew he would. Gets it across the timeline with 3 seconds remaining, and then put it up just off the glass. And as a result, we are tied at 80, and we're going into overtime. Both teams have lost once this season.
Somebody will change that record tonight, huh?
Well, now you're Heath Goat. You've got players in foul trouble. Your kids have fought back. Do you change anything at all right now?
Not at all, Vern. If anything, you would hope that the conditioning of the Michigan State players, if you judge Heathcote, is such that they can continue that transition game. As far as Kansas is concerned, their minus their big guy, Danny Manning, is going to be incumbent amongst the other players to really come through offensively.
Larry Brown's team in overtime lost once to Memphis State earlier in the season. The Michigan State loss was to Iowa State, a team that lost here earlier tonight to North Carolina State. Danny Manning, Ron Kellogg, both on the bench having fouled out. Cedric Hunter controls for Kansas.
We'll see who takes over the leadership role for Kansas, because their leader is on the bench in Danny Manning. Michigan State still has theirs out there in Scott Skiles.
Skiles with 18 points, high for his team in the game. Has played the entire second half with 3 fouls. Dreiling ends the drought. He was 2 of 9 until he canned that basket. He's now hitting 30%, and Kansas takes an early lead.
This would be an excellent time for him to put aside the poor play in regulation time and come through in overtime.
Foul trouble, Pollock and Johnson with 4. Manning and Kellogg are out. Skiles evens it up.
Well, the expression is a prime-time player, and Skiles is certainly it.
Cedric Hunter comes across, glances at Larry Brown on the bench. Says, what do you want, Coach?
That 2-3 zone defense of the Spartans cannot allow Dreiling to get the ball in the paint. They've got to force him out high or front him and get some help on the lob.
From the top of the key, long rebound taken by Larry Pollock, who's been a rebounding force tonight. Skiles lays it off to Pollock, off the glass.
Good play. Good play. Fans want to walk? Absolutely not.
Larry Pollock with 14 points, and Michigan State back on top. 3:40 remaining in overtime.
Pollock has really done his job nicely, an unsung hero who's really hit the boards hard tonight.
Skiles went for the steal. 11 rebounds for Larry Pollock tonight.
And that's 6 over his average.
As a man who improved his field goal percentage dramatically in Big 8 play, shot over 70%. Set a Big 8 record, and it's tied at 84 again, 3:15 remaining. A sellout crowd at Kemper Arena. Skiles. Dreiling with a rebound. Kansas with a chance to go back on top. Cedric Hunter looks in the face of the zone. Archie Marshall, the man who tied it up with 7 seconds to go.
Got to keep Dreiling out of the middle.
Look underneath for Chris Piper. Hunter looks for Dreiling, settles instead for Archie Marshall, a junior college transfer who played at Seminole Junior College in Oklahoma last year. 14 seconds left in the 42nd clock. The fresh 45. Thompson with a chance for a 3-point play. Maybe hurt. Points for Calvin Thompson now, James.
Thompson does a nice job as he goes up for the rebound here, sticks with it, And at 6'6", 220, he uses that bulk very nicely as he goes up, and he comes down on that knee in an awkward position. Looks like it locked a little bit on him. And he's trying to run it off, yeah.
Those of you who have not been with us throughout the game, a quick recap. Kansas was up by 9 at the half. Skiles was out with foul trouble with 3. Michigan State, led by Barry Fordham, made a run and took the lead at 63-62. They held the lead for most of that point on. They had a chance to ice it with 20 seconds remaining in regulation play with Mark Brown at the line, the freshman. But he missed the front end of a 1-and-1. Kansas got the rebound. Archie Marshall put it in.
You know, Thompson wears a special insert in his shoe anyway. One of his legs is 1 inch and 5/8 inches longer than the other. It's a birth defect, so that could very well have contributed to the problem as well.
87-84 with 2:20 to go. And there was also, we cannot forget, the controversy of a clock that stayed at the 2:20 mark for a good 15 seconds. Regulation time. It never did run. Underneath, Darrell Johnson. What a feed, Larry Pollock.
Excellent pass. Excellent pass. Good recognition. The middleman on his own came up to cover him, and a good pass.
Kansas playing with its 2 leading scorers, Danny Manning and Ron Kellogg on the bench.
Barry Fordham is really winded on the inside. You can see it. He's huffing and puffing. And Vernon Carr's got a big task whenever Dreiling is on his side.
Archie Marshall. Calvin Thompson. Hits it again. 22 points for Calvin Thompson, 4 in overtime.
We'll talk about a heroic effort. He is really lumbering in pain.
Rebound, Pollock is 12th of the game. Shot, Dreiling with the carom. 1:20 to go and a 3-point Kansas lead. Timeout. We have 1:18 remaining. Vern Lundquist and James Brown here at Kemper Arena in Kansas City. The Jayhawks are out of timeout. Michigan State still has 2 left.
Vern, it's really going to be a crying shame that a game as well played as it has been between these 2 teams. The young men giving their all, and it has to be marred somewhat by what we think perhaps was a malfunction on the clock's part.
Well, there seems to be some thought now that even though the clock didn't start when it was at 2:20, it did jump down to the proper time. We'll try and check that. Here are those who are the 4 free throw shooters for Kansas, and they'll go right at Cedric Hunter or Chris Piper, both hitting under 60%. You don't want Thompson on the line, and you'd rather not have Marshall or Dreiling. Judd Heathcote's team trailing 89-86.
No doubt Coach Brown wants the ball in the hands of Turgeon and Hunter.
Mark Turgeon, junior from Topeka. Dreiling inbounds to him. Darrell Johnson running man for man, the press. Turgeon gets it across. Quickly over to Thompson. Now to Archie Marshall. 89-86. 29 seconds remaining on the shot clock. Underneath. Calvin Thompson, the senior, with 25 points and a 5-point margin. Skiles, short. Foul on Pollock. That's it for the game. Jayhawk land. Larry Pollock fouls out with 11 rebounds and 16 points. The senior out of Sterling Heights, Michigan. And Archie Marshall at the line gets the first of the 1-and-1. It was his basket that tied it up with 7 seconds remaining in regulation play. Brown up and hollering, get back, don't foul, don't foul. 3 bounces, Hunter with the rebound. Dreiling has it now, 35 seconds remaining in the game. And a 93-86 Kansas lead. Foul on Ralph Walker, number 15.
size made the difference for Kansas down the stretch. The big guys under the basket just eventually wore out the little guys.
Larry Pollock with an all-round game tonight, fouled out with 11 rebounds and 16 points. His final game, perhaps, for the Michigan State Spartans. And another senior at the line now, the star of the second half in the overtime, Calvin Thompson. These kids were picked in the preseason to finish 8th in the Big Ten. And they've taken Kansas into overtime and had the lead with 20 seconds to go. And Mark Brown, the freshman, at the line, shooting 1-1 with a 2-point lead. Here's Thompson. Bounce pass, Marshall. Up and in. That should nail it. It's 96-86. Vernon Carr. Kansas got the scare of its young life. But playing before the home crowd, they advance to beat North Carolina State on Sunday. Scott Skiles in his final game for Michigan State. Larry Brown relieved now with his two top scorers on the bench, Kellogg and Danny Manning. Turn to another senior, Calvin Thompson.
Finals of the Eastern Regional are set. It's David versus Goliath. David being Navy's David Robinson, who's actually played like a Goliath.
We worked as hard as we could, and he's 7 for 11, 8 for 10, 14 rebounds, 34 minutes, 9 blocks. That's a superstar, gentlemen.
2 of Robinson's 22 points came with 8 seconds left. And they proved to be the winning margin over Cleveland State.
I came in the middle, and there was nobody on me. There's nobody about a step or two in front of me. And I was incredibly open. It was a good pass by Kyler right to me. And I just went up, tried not to lean in, and make the easy shot.
Navy has been called a one-man team, but David Robinson will be the first to tell you all for one is far more productive than one for all. Kyler Whitaker contributed 23 points and 10 assists Friday night. Teammate Vernon Butler added 16. But down the stretch, it was all David Robinson.
And about 5 minutes to go, when I looked at the clock, I said, you know, somebody better take charge, because we're definitely losing our composure, and we're just falling apart here. So I think that's when I turned around and started to play a little bit more.
The nightcap pitted the Blue Devils and the Blue Demons. Top-ranked Duke did a number on DePaul, putting up the big numbers on the evening. Guard Johnny Dawkins, who turned in 25 points and 10 rebounds. Unranked DePaul was just hoping to win this game. Duke expected to.
We're not particularly an enthusiastic team or an emotional team, but I think we have a very good work ethic, and, you know, that's, as long as we work hard, we're successful.
And on Sunday, they'll have to work overtime to close the book on Navy's fairy tale season.
I have 3 daughters, and I always read them, as they're growing up, I read them stories, you know, nursery rhymes and everything, and I never knew Cinderella was 7 feet and blocked 200 shots in a season.
This tournament is always an interesting mix of sure shots and long shots, and that's exactly what we've got in store on Sunday. But when it gets this late in the season, all that matters is you still have a shot. From the Eastern Regional at the Brendan Byrne Arena in New Jersey, I'm Dan Patrick, CNN Sports.
In the Midwest Regional, the clock almost ran out on top-seeded Kansas. But as it turned out, the Jayhawks had just enough time to stage a dramatic comeback. CNN's Bob Richards has the story from Kansas City.
Controversy, the story in the Midwest Regional semis last night. The Kemper Arena clock, the cause for all the concern. Late in the game, Michigan State leading Kansas, but keep your eye on that clock. It stuck. 11 seconds go by before it started up again. Now, those 11 seconds came back to haunt the Spartans. Down the stretch, they couldn't convert from the free throw line, and Kansas capitalized. With just 10 seconds to go, Archie Marshall puts in the offensive rebound, sends it into overtime. In the extra session, the Jayhawks took control. Calvin Thompson pumped in 8 of his 26 as Kansas won it 98-88.
We beat a team that is as difficult to play as any team
that I've ever coached against. Their style is unique. They execute well. They got great competitors. And I think we were very fortunate to win.
The sad thing about the entire game is a malfunction in the clock. If those 10 seconds go off the clock like they should have, then the game would have been over before they could have tied it. And it's just amazing when I try to get the officials to come over and confer with the timer on the amount of time elapsed, he refuses to do so. And that's a request that you're supposed to have honored. And to have a clock malfunction in an NCAA game is extremely disappointing.
It was North Carolina State against Iowa State in the other Midwest semi. The Wolfpack came out and established their inside game early in this one. That's what they wanted to do. They led by 11 at the half. After the break, the Cyclones came roaring back, though. They made up the 11 points in the first 6.5 minutes of the second. But State then went on a 7-2 run. They took the lead for good. Their bigger front line once again leading the way. Charles Shackelford had 22. Chris Washburn added 20 as State won it 70-66. Wolfpack coach Jim Valvano says his team winning ugly.
We're not giving up a lot of points, and we're making it tough for people to get good shots. And that's the type of defense, as I told you, it's not pretty. It's effective.
So the Wolfpack now advance to tomorrow's finals against Kansas. These two met earlier this year, Kansas winning it in Greensboro 71-56. Jayhawks coach Larry Brown expects another barn burner.
I think playing them before is going to be a situation that'll help our kids prepare. I don't think there's any lock we're going to win. It's going to be a hell of a basketball game.
For NCAA Preview, I'm Bob Richards.
The Louisville Cardinals find themselves in some very familiar surroundings. They are in their 21st consecutive postseason tournament. And the school that won it all in 1980 now finds itself just one win away from a 7th trip to the Final Four. These Cardinals aren't doing it with mirrors. They are working on a 14-game winning streak, averaging 89 points in the tournament thus far, and riding a high that beating North Carolina by 15 points provides. It's time now, though, to come down from that cloud because reality is right around the corner in the form of Auburn.
I just hope that we don't get the big hit or anything and, you know, people get overexcited and think we can take Auburn light since we beat such a tough team. You know, I think it'll help us out a whole lot because everybody come out real confident.
If you let down, you get beaten, and I certainly hope we don't get beat because of that. If Auburn beats us because they're better, that's fine.
Don't believe that. Losing isn't fine with Denny Crum, nor with Sonny Smith and his Auburn Tigers. Here's a club like Louisville that has saved its best for tournament time.
We've been streaking, and they're definitely streaking. Nobody's really has beaten them in a long time, and I can see why. They have balanced scoring. They got tremendous bench. They got pressure on you offensively and defensively. They're coached extremely well. What else do you need?
Well, it's not like the Tigers are hurting. Chuck Person alone has become a one-man wrecking crew. The power forward is indeed a force inside, but has a sweet touch outside to make him doubly dangerous. This Auburn team has advanced further in this tournament than any other in the school's history. They've already dispatched of the region's #1 and 4 seeds. Louisville is #2. Favored, yes. Cocky, no way. They've seen Auburn play.
You can't call anybody an underdog right now. You know, if they still left in the tournament, they can beat you. So we're not going to take them as their underdogs because they're capable of beating us if we don't play well. So we're going to have to go out there and play as hard as we can.
That's where we stand. Time to stop talking and start playing. A trip to the Final Four awaits the winner. For NCAA Preview, I'm Terry Chick.
For a team that has overcome injuries, academic ineligibilities, and chicken pox, beating a former #1 team in its hometown was not an insurmountable task. Not with a sharpshooter named Don Redden, who shot the eyes out of the basket and led all players with 27 points. And a defense that was all over the court and forced Georgia Tech into 17 turnovers, compared to just 5 of its own. LSU moves on 70-64, while Georgia Tech joins Memphis State and Purdue in the Tiger path of upsets.
We wanted to go a long way. We wanted to get to Dallas. It was our dream, and the dream has been broken, and life has to go on now.
For LSU to advance to the Final Four, the Tigers will have to avoid their 4th loss of the year to Kentucky, something Alabama could not avoid. Aggressive defense and balanced scoring carried the Wildcats to a 68-63 win. Kentucky has now won 32 games, including the SEC regular season and postseason championships. But they must prove themselves once more against conference rival LSU.
From top to bottom, there's no tougher league in the SEC.
I just hope in future years I don't have to play 23 conference games. I hope the NCAA Tournament Committee sees fit to spread us around a little bit better.
Although one of the teams will be eliminated this afternoon, the SEC is guaranteed a spot in the Final Four.
And today you'll see college basketball at its Southern Fried Finest. 4 teams from below the Mason-Dixon line are getting set to duel it out for the honor of their region. And before this day is over, 2 will still be whistling Dixie. On their way to Dallas, coming up, it's the last stop on the road to the Final Four. And good afternoon, Jim Nance along with Bill Raftery back live in New York. In about 20 minutes, we'll tip off the West Regional Final between Auburn and Louisville. Then at 4 o'clock today, the Southeast Regional Championship. That will pit LSU against Kentucky. So, Bill Raftery, this is kind of SEC day in the tournament.
Well, at least one will get in, maybe 2.
All right, now last night, in case you missed it, a game marred with controversy, Kansas against Michigan State. The second-ranked team in the country, the Jayhawks, won it in overtime. But let's go back now to regulation. 2:20 remaining in the game. Michigan State had the lead. The clock should have started when the ball was touched. But as you will see in our clock in the upper right-hand corner, this is how much time actually elapsed before the game clock started.
Right now, Dreiling tips it up. Kellogg gets it off the glass and in. The clock is not running. It's been stuck on 2:20. Now finally it starts again. And Judd Heathcote is going to raise some net.
No adjustment was ever made, so 15 extra seconds were put into this ball game. It really helped Kansas down the stretch, as you will see. Michigan State shooting the free throw with a 2-point lead. And now Kansas coming down with a chance to tie. Now remember, the extra 15 seconds would not have been here.
Alvin Thompson.
Now Scott Skiles of the Spartans, number 4, came down and gave it one last-ditch effort at the buzzer. But this game was destined for overtime. In the extra session, it was all Kansas, and mainly behind number 35, Calvin Thompson, who scores off of his own miss. Thompson had 8 of the Jayhawks' 16 points in overtime. Kansas went on to win it by 10 and advance in the tournament. Judd Heathcote was livid after the game.
The sad thing about the entire game is a malfunction in the clock. If those 10 seconds go off the clock like they should have, then the game would have been over before they could have tied it.
Well, it's an unfortunate circumstance, but the clock operator was not aware that the clock had malfunctioned, so didn't notify the officials. And according to the rules, you can't add or subtract time from a clock unless either the officials or the scorekeeper or the timer knows precisely how much time has been lost or added. So it was just guesswork, so it was one of those uncorrectable errors because no one knew precisely how much time had been lost.
Now, Bill, since there were over 2 minutes left in regulation, you cannot say this is why Michigan State lost the game, but it didn't help their cause at all.
Well, Judd Heathcote's normally more demonstrative. I think if he has one regret, he didn't tackle the official or push the horn or do something wild.
All right, Bill, the West Regional Final coming up in just a few minutes. We'll talk about that not having much of a Western flavor out there in Houston when we come back in just a moment.
To the Final Four is sponsored by John Deere and your local John Deere dealer. New Slim Micro-Track from Gillette, the essence of shaving. And by Team Xerox, the right products and right people all working together.
Auburn comes up with it. Moore gets it into the hands of White. The point guard comes right in behind Ellison, uses him, and now he weaves inside. Oh, the left hand. What a pretty play by Moore. Followed Ellison, used his body and sliced to the left.
White's got that body to go inside.
Knocked away from Thompson.
Good job by Morris to come over the top to block that. You know, about that 1960 championship that Auburn won, they were on probation that year, and that's why their first NCAA time that they were in the NCAA playoff didn't come until Sonny's club 3 years ago. They didn't participate in after winning the SEC regular season championship.
They wanted Crook, and it goes out of bounds on the bad pass. And, you know, Milt Wagner's only 2 of 5 for Denny Crum, and he really is not in this game.
He hadn't been in the offense at all, and one of the reasons for that, Auburn is preventing Louisville from getting on the break, and that's where Milt Wagner really gets rolling. We can either on the break or on a delayed break gets that jump shot off.
Person tried to back Ellison in. Now he comes out, and Morris takes the shot. Ellison is there with the rebound. Ball up the floor to Hall.
There's Milt Wagner wide open.
Good block. Play by White, and foul is called. I thought he had the ball.
He stripped that one. Now, Milt Wagner, that's why I was talking about the delayed drink, where Milt Wagner likes to come down on the side and get that jump shot. He was wide open. Let's see this play. Boy, I thought that was a good block. White's so quick and strong.
You know, we have the advantage of instant replay, and I suspect a lot of folks that watched that controversy last night wondered if instant replay could have been used. Could it by the officials to solve that dilemma in Kansas City last night?
Well, you remember a couple of years ago we had an official use the replay, and that is something that's frowned upon completely by the NCAA committee, and they told their officials right up front that they were not at any time to use TV replays.
They would have gone over to the play-by-play and tried to sort out the time.
That's right.
Your leadership from Griff and Tony Branch that we get from Milt and Jeff and Billy, and I think so. The teams are very closely related in that regard.
No, you like your chances going to Dallas. You'll take this team with you, huh?
Well, we're going to go. Nobody can predict what'll happen, but we're sure happy to be there. This team's really worked hard.
All right, good luck, Coach. Now let's send you back to New York, and here's Jim Nance.
All right, Brent. Again, Louisville will face the winner now of the LSU-Kentucky game that's coming up in just a few minutes from Atlanta. Let's go there live right now and join Dick Stockton.
Thank you very much, Jim, and the excitement is building here at the Omni in Atlanta. The underdog LSU Tigers, who have won 3 exciting games, will try to make it 4 in a row and get to Dallas against favored Kentucky. Kentucky was the #1 seed in the Southeast region when this whole thing started, and they have gotten here by virtue of victories over Davidson, Western Kentucky, and a 5-point victory over Alabama, their 4th victory over Alabama this year. Meanwhile, LSU had the magic with a double overtime victory over Purdue, the #6 seed. Then they beat #3 seed Memphis State in that exciting victory. And then Georgia Tech here in Atlanta, the #2 seed team. And a lot of people think LSU is a team on the run. Dale Brown, the head coach of LSU, talked with Larry Connolly a short while ago.
Dale, let's talk about that SEC team. You're playing Kentucky for the 4th time. Obviously an excellent basketball team. Good job by Eddie Sutton. What do you think about them?
Well, I think Eddie should really be applauded, not only for his on-court coaching, but you're an ex-Kentucky player, and you know that's probably the most pressurized job in America. And I think the fact that he's been able to handle the off-court pressures. Now, I know they've won and all that, but so did Joe win, and so did Adolph win. I think he's done a remarkable job there. I think they're a great basketball team. There's no question they have one of the best players in America, but a lot of people fail to recognize they've got 8 legitimate high school All-Americans, and he's molded them into one unit. So it should be a great game. I think it'll be decided on defense. All 3 of our games have been low scoring, and it's the first time we've played them that we've been healthy. So that's one mark for us there.
Great, Dale. Thank you for stopping by.
Thanks.
Well, both coaches who came up the ranks together say defense will be the key in this one. LSU and Kentucky coming up shortly. Right now, let's go back to Jim Nance in New York.
Thank you, Dick. And Bill Raftery, how do you see this game coming up?
Would you buy a used car from Dale Brown?
I think I would. He's a good salesman.
Oh, he could. Butter would melt in his mouth. I think they have to be in the low 60s, and they'll confuse Kentucky with those switching zone defenses.
All right, Bill, we'll continue now with this tournament memory.
NC State under Coach Jim Valvano had lost, I think, 10 games, and no one expected them to accomplish what they did. The Wolfpack had won the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship in Atlanta, and I think the coach and the team was expecting to be placed in the Eastern Regional, but Wolfpack would go to Corvallis, Oregon, which is about as far away as you can go. Well, nobody in Raleigh knew a whole lot about Pepperdine. Several times it looked like the Wolfpack was just dead turkey. Believe me, dead turkey. In fact, I remember they were down 6 points with 54 seconds left and no more timeouts. And yet they came back through some sort of miracle, won the game, and of course were on their way to that fabulous 6-game winning streak that brought the national championship.
Welcome to the heart of the South, where today it's the end of the road for one good team, a trip to Dallas for a better one. LSU appears to have the magic touch, and with it, Dale Brown has much to be thankful for. A first-round win on their home court in Baton Rouge over Purdue in 2 overtimes. 2 days later, a buzzer beater against 12th-ranked Memphis State. And Thursday night, outdistancing highly regarded Georgia Tech here in Atlanta. Everywhere you look, the Magic seems to have touched LSU. Eddie Sutton's first year at Kentucky has been remarkable, centered around his own brand of pressure defense and the play of All-American Kenny Walker. Walker's intimidating defense inside, but more important, his ability to score in traffic has made Kentucky a favorite for the round of 4. LSU and Kentucky, the survivor heads for Dallas and the Final Four. Teams are battling for the Southeast Regional Championship. 11-seeded LSU and the top-seeded Kentucky Wildcats. Here's how they got there. Kentucky beating Alabama for the 4th time this year, and LSU upsetting Georgia Tech here in Atlanta. And good afternoon again, everyone. I'm Dick Stockton, and we have tremendous excitement here in the Omni. Most observers thought Kentucky would have the usual good team this year, with Eddie Sutton in his first year as coach of the Wildcats, but not as good as they really were. 32-3 right now. Certainly no one had anticipated what LSU has done. They had a laundry list of problems in midseason, yet here they are spinning the Magic, and they are within 1 game of getting to the Final Four. I want to bring in my partner, Larry Conley. And Larry, can the emotion and the momentum that LSU has spun so far carry them over a real good Kentucky team?
Dick, I think it can. When you look at the NCAA tournament, it's really the short season. And you can win short seasons with emotion. Dale Brown right now has LSU and his Fighting Tigers on an emotional high. They're playing great basketball. They've had 3 great wins in this NCAA tournament. And right now for them, the key is John Williams. He had a bad basketball game Thursday night against Georgia Tech. He's not the type of player who has 2 bad games in a row.
Kentucky's beat LSU 3 times this year, and John Williams did not play in the first meeting. But let's talk more about Kentucky. We talk about LSU's magic. It seems like Kentucky's had magic throughout their basketball history.
Well, as you said, a club that's 32-3 right now. They've baffled the basketball experts. How does a club with 1 starter that is 6'8", nobody taller, and 3 guards in the starting lineup get to within 1 step of Dallas? Impossible? Not really. Eddie Sutton did a great coaching job, and he also has got tradition on his side, Dick. You can't discount that.
Defense, the name of the game here, right?
Absolutely. Defense is very crucial in this game.
All right, Kentucky and LSU, the stage is set here in Atlanta, and the winner will go on to Dallas.
Today's Southeast Regional Final Game is sponsored by Mazda Cars and Trucks. The more you look, the more you like Mazda value. McDonald's, it's a good time for the great taste of McDonald's. And by 7-Up, pouring cool and clear. 7-Up feels so good coming down.
Kentucky, and let's take a closer look at these 2 teams. LSU, despite a 25-11 record, did have a winning record on the road, which says a lot for Dale Brown. Their 1 win against the Elite 8 over Auburn. Kentucky, seeded #1, has the kind of numbers that gets you to Dallas, Texas. And right now, for the starting lineups, let's go to the public address announcer, Marshall Mann.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Metro Conference welcomes you to the Omni for the 1986 NCAA Southeast Regional Final Game between the Louisiana State University Fighting Tigers and the Kentucky Wildcats. Now let's meet the starting lineups. For LSU, at forward, a 6'8" sophomore from Los Angeles, California, number 24, John Williams. For Kentucky, at forward, a 6'8" senior from Roberta, Georgia, number 34, Kenny Walker. For LSU, forward, a 6'6" senior from Monroe, Louisiana, number 44, Don Ritt. For Kentucky at forward, a 6'7" junior from Louisville, Kentucky, number 25, Winston Bennett. For LSU at center, a 6'7" sophomore from Miami, Florida, number 33, Ricky Flynn. For Kentucky at guard, a 6'3" junior from Marion, Indiana, number 10, James Blackman. For LSU at guard, a 6-foot senior from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, number 10, Derek Taylor. For Kentucky at guard, a 6'2" sophomore from Brooklyn, New York, number 15, Ed Davender. For LSU at guard, a 6'5" junior from Plain Dealing, Louisiana, number 11, Anthony Wilson. For Kentucky at guard, a 6'1" senior from Valparaiso, Indiana, number 23, Roger Harden. And now introducing the head coaches. For LSU, in his 14th season, Dale Brown. For Kentucky, in his first season, Eddie Sutton.
And Eddie Sutton has a 5-2 career record against Dale Brown. Ready for the opening tip-off of the Southeast Regional Final in just a moment. The referees
with impossible schemes.
We're on the final stage of the road to the Final Four. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jim Nance along with Bill Raftery back in New York. Coming up in just a short while, we'll have Navy going against number 1 Duke in the East Final. That'll be followed this afternoon by North Carolina State and Kansas for the Midwest Regional Championship. Now, yesterday we saw one of the underdogs do it as LSU was a winner over Kentucky. What must Navy and North Carolina State do this afternoon to win?
Navy has to handle the pressure of the Duke guards, and of course, I think Washburn has to have a big game against Greg Dreiling.
All right, Bill. Of course, yesterday the first 2 slots of this year's Final Four were filled.
Down in Houston, Denny Crumb's Louisville Cardinals pulled away in the waning moments of the game against Auburn. And back in Louisville, there was a case of Saturday night fever.
This is a special team. We love you, Alabama.
I couldn't make it to Houston, so that's the next best thing.
And the players told their fans what they wanted to hear.
Y'all gonna be there with us. And we're gonna play as hard as we can to bring it back to Louisville.
In the other regional final, Ricky Blatton of LSU capped an upset of top-seeded Kentucky. The Bayou Bengals were headed for Dallas, but last night they stopped off at home in Baton Rouge, where the faithful were waiting in mass. Only a glimpse of their conquering heroes could tame these Tiger fans.
And we'll continue on the road to the Final Four in just a moment.
The road to the Final Four is sponsored by Yamaha. We make the difference. AT&T. In long-distance services, information systems, telephones, and computers, AT&T is the right choice. And by Michelin. Michelin, because so much is riding on your tires.
Be about 15 minutes away. For Navy to continue its sneak attack on a Final Four bid, the midshipmen will need yet another standout performance from junior center David Robinson, the player his teammates call the Sultan of Smooth.
Watch for Robinson in the middle of the floor. Right there he is.
Going for the game winner. He got it.
Not only have they come to respect David Robinson in this NCAA tournament, they've come to fear him because he's dominating the game as few big men have.
He's a real legitimate shot blocker. He's big. He's got a good touch. Runs the court well. He's got a lot to learn, but not that much. I mean, he's very good.
But it'll be a long time before David Robinson ever plays professional basketball. In this era of million-dollar athletes and lifetime contracts, he's decided to stay here in Annapolis, pursue his education, and honor the 5-year military commitment. You almost wonder why.
I just wanted the security. I think last year I wasn't sure about how much better I would get. I knew I had a lot of potential, but I wasn't sure about how far basketball would go. And I like the academy, and I like the way it's been treating me.
And if he had left before his junior year began, thus bypassing the Navy's 5-year military commitment for a shot at the NBA, who would have blamed him? He had already grown 5 inches since enrolling here, developing far beyond all expectations.
Well, I thought he could be a great small forward, 6'7", great athlete that could run up and down, could block shots, could rebound, and could shoot, because he was a pretty good shooter in high school. But obviously, in my wildest dreams, I never expected him to be 7 foot tall and a center for us.
Over here on your left is a boiler. But basketball is only part of David's life. Although Academy regulations state he has grown too tall for submarine duty or a career as a pilot, David will find other ways to utilize his math degree in the Navy. For the midshipman's mission is to prepare morally, mentally, and physically to be a professional officer, not a professional athlete. Any second guessing your decision now with the kind of year that you have had up to this point?
No, I don't think that'd be really fair.
He knows he'll have to wait 5 years for his shot at the pros. But didn't a midshipman named Roger Staubach once pull it off? And isn't there more to life than just taking the money to run and jump ship?
It was tough. That's what you dream about when you're a little kid. You always want to make that kind of money. When I came to the Navy, I was hoping to be successful. My goal is still to be successful. I think just a few different opportunities have opened for me and a few different paths to success.
Okay, Bill, you know, Duke's been rather tight so far in this tournament, don't you think?
I think they have. I think they're number one. Everybody expects them. But Tommy Emiker and Johnny Dawkins have to shoot well and get some easy points to get Navy out of that zone, or they're going to have a tough night.
All right, everyone expects them to go to the Final Four. They'll have to get by Navy today. We'll come back and take a look at Jim Valvano in just a moment. This year's Cinderella team, but in our second game today, we'll see top-seeded Kansas challenged by North Carolina State. And as Bill Raftery tells us, Wolfpack coach Jim Valvano starred in a storybook finish of his own just 3 years ago.
There was never a doubt in my mind what I wanted to do. I remember being in the 3rd grade in Sister Mary Helen's class at St. Leo's when they ask you to write, you know, what do you want to be? And everybody wants to be, at that age, a priest, usually in Catholic school, you know, or you want to be a fireman, a policeman, and I said basketball coach.
Jim Valvano followed his father's vocation, and 3 years ago, his mission took him to the top of the basketball world, but times change.
I can honestly say that I can't capture that same emotion, that same feeling. Like right now, I'm very happy, I'm very pleased, I'm proud of my ball club, but I don't have that same feeling of that Sunday game is going to be my life.
But basketball is Chris Washburn's life. The sophomore forward was recruited by Valvano despite low college board scores. And last year, Washburn was arrested for theft, but the coach stood by him.
The Chris Washburns, you know, of the world deserve the opportunity also to get an education.
And Valvano has become something of an educator himself, both off the court and on it.
He lets you know what's going on in every situation before you even play the game. So, you know, when you get into the game, you're not shocked or surprised about anything. So that's why he's a great tournament coach.
It takes him a long time to wind down, and he doesn't sleep for a long time after the game. But eventually, he'll be up for so many hours that your body just tells you that finally you need to go to sleep. But he's a very intense person, mostly all the time.
His family, though, helps him to unwind.
Italian kid, gotta have a little piece of peace. Plus, she has a glass of wine, too, with it. So that's the difference.
He loves kids, all his kids. Loves watching them expand their horizons.
Everything is a first-time experience. From the first time we went on a road trip, we landed in Chicago. And my kids, my young kids, my freshmen, this is a true story. They didn't even know we fed them. They were heading off to McDonald's to get something to eat. You know, but they didn't know. No, we feed you. We bring you here and we feed you.
Yes, everything really is a first-time experience, and maybe some moments were meant to remain just that way.
If we hadn't been there in '83, last year and this year, oh, I'd have agita. You all know what that means out there. That's what I'd have, but right now I'm okay.
At Rutgers, he was the second fiddle to Bobby Lloyd, but in the ACC, he may be the answer to Dale Brown.
Okay. You told me before that game might be coming down to the final buzzer. Speaking of which, we're going to take a look at some of the best buzzer beater finishes so far in this tournament when we continue. There have been 58 games played in this tournament. Which one had the best finish in your mind?
Well, for me, the win of Navy over Cleveland State, the inbounds pass, and David Robinson knocking it down.
All right. Now, of course, we've had a lot of good finishes this year, and that's really just part of the tradition of this tournament.
It's down to 7 seconds. You can see the time. Wittenberg. Oh, that's a long ways.
Is going to run it now. Bruce Douglas makes him take it. What a shot by Terry Connor.
With 2 seconds, they've got the ball half court. He'll get the shot. It's a good one. What a shot.
Seconds left.
Watch for Robinson in the middle of the floor. Right there he is. Going for the game winner. To go. I'd get John Williams the ball somehow. Redden's going to take the shot. 2 seconds. 1 second. And the game is going to... Oh, he got it! Wilson!
Coming up next, Navy versus Duke for a ticket to Texas.
Robinson is a junior at the U.S. Naval Academy. When he steps on the basketball floor, he can dominate a game. The nation's leading rebounder and shot blocker has led Navy to its finest season. Among their victims in tournament play was Syracuse. The Middies ended their season in the Carrier Dome. Next, it was Cleveland State, who Coach Kevin Mackey prayed could continue its Cinderella season. However, in the East Regional semifinals, Robinson scored the winning basket with 5 seconds remaining to eliminate Cleveland State and advance to the regional final. Even though Navy must now face the #1 team of the nation, the Middies are confident. Like many other teams that started this tourney, Navy knew that their road to the Final Four might have to go through Duke. Duke, the team to beat, the #1 seed in the East, and the #1 ranked team in the nation. This talent-laden team is led by the backcourt tandem, playmaker Tommy Amaker and All-America Johnny Dawkins. After cruising by DePaul Friday night, the Blue Devils are poised for their first trip back to the Final Four since 1978. But they must sink the Navy for the right to cut down the nets and head to Dallas. It's Navy versus Duke. Welcome to the Meadowlands in East Rutherford, New Jersey for this Eastern Regional Championship game. The 7th seed in the tournament, the Midshipmen of Navy against the #1 seed in all this tournament, the Blue Devils of Duke. everybody. I'm Gary Bender. What a glorious season for Navy. They are 30-4. They've won 16 straight games. They're a step away from their first Final Four ever. While theirs has been glorious, Duke has had a spectacular year. They are 35-2. They have the longest winning streak of the nation at 19. They've been at the Final Four 4 times. They'd like to go there for the 5th time, the first time since 1978. And Doug Collins, I thought Paul Evans of Navy said it so well. He says we're simply playing the best team in the country.
Gary, I think the biggest key today for Navy is they must get off to a good start. They're going to be facing the toughest man-to-man pressure they've faced all season long. Doug Wojcik is going to have to bring the ball up against the pressure, get them into their half-court offense.
We always hear about doing it the Navy way. Well, the Navy way this year is the Mr. Robinson way.
Duke coach Mike Krzyzewski said yesterday, the key is not to try to key on David Robinson. They want to play their regular defense. They want to stop Vernon Butler and Kyler Whitaker, force these other players to do something they're not used to doing.
2 teams, 1 hurdle, 1 step away from the Final Four in Dallas. We'll be back to set the starting lineups in just a moment.
Today's East Regional Final game is sponsored by Honda Power Equipment. Lawnmowers, lawn tractors.
Navy style. Well, 2-3 zone, you check out in an area, and occasionally 2 people will be there. You can't have individual responsibility, and Duke very aggressive on the glasses. We'll see here Mark Allery missing the jumper, and Robinson with 2 fouls has to be concerned. Really does not challenge Dawkins as much as I'm sure he would like to.
All right, and Duke has 20 of their 34 points on second chance opportunities. Now, the second game today will be down in Kansas City. That is, of course, between Kansas and North Carolina State for the Midwest Regional Championship. Now for a live report, let's go down to Brent Musburger and Billy Packer.
All right, Jim and Bill, let's first talk about the injury situation here, Billy. How about Ron Kellogg of the Kansas Jayhawks?
Well, he has a foot injury, Brandon. What's so difficult about that? Larry Brown didn't have to use him on Friday as much, or didn't want to use him as much as he had to, and now you only have 1 day rest. It could be very difficult for him to come back and play, and they need him, obviously, from the outside shooting standpoint.
Calvin Thompson with the cramps, he should be all right for Larry Brown.
He should be all right, but when a guy cramps up in a ball game, and again, only 1 day rest, who knows what he's going to do in a game like this.
All right, these 2 teams played back in December. It was a blowout, Kansas pulling away in the second half, but North Carolina State's improved. Let's show you one of the reasons why. The young man in the middle, Chris Washburn.
You're going to see a move right here that exemplifies what a great athlete he is. At 6'10" or 11, here's a double pump inside in the lane, a good soft shot. There are not many guys in the college level, or maybe for that matter, in the NBA level at that size can make that play.
Ask a pro scout to draft for potential, and he would take either Washburn or Danny Manning, number 1. Manning, of course, is the leading scorer for the Jayhawks, number 25.
Maybe the most gifted all-around collegiate basketball player in the game right now. He's a big guy who plays like a small guy. 6'10", terrific ball handler, great inside shooter. It's just a matter of how explosive he's going to be in this game today.
Larry Brown is favored. Jim Valvano, though, is always there at the end of the game. Let's go back now to Jim Nance.
All right, thank you, Brent. That game, of course, right around 4 o'clock Eastern time, tipping off the Midwest Regional Championship. And we'll have an update on the women's tournament when we continue right after this.
71-50. Duke with their 36th win against only 2 setbacks. Mike Krzyzewski is with us. Mike was suggested back in the studio that maybe this is just kind of a relief that you're really not celebrating that much yet.
Well, we won by a good margin, so I think we are, it's not as anticlimactic, or, it is anticlimactic, I should say, but we're really very happy, very, very happy.
You came in here, and a lot of people say this team is so businesslike. There isn't that kind of extraneous enthusiasm.
There is when we're together. We just don't let a lot of people in on it. We're a very loose group and a group that has a lot of fun, but we just have fun within our group. We don't show a lot of it outside.
Mike, you were trailing 20-16 in the first half. Then you made an 18-2 run. It was a very impressive piece of basketball.
Well, I really think our defensive intensity just picked up immensely, and offensive rebounding. We knew going into the ball game that we had to get offensive boards, and that little guy, Dawkins, made an incredible move. I couldn't believe he did that behind the back stuff, and that ignited us too. And then we got good help off the bench.
I guess nothing should surprise you about Dawkins. The thought occurs to me, these guys for 4 years, they started out 11-17 as freshmen. Boy, what progress you've made.
Well, what persistence. They're a great group, and it's not just our senior group, but the youngsters who joined them. And I'm just glad that our administration had faith in us and stuck with us. I think it says a lot for Duke University.
One final question. Kansas, North Carolina State. You beat North Carolina State twice, Kansas in the NIT. Your thoughts?
Well, North Carolina State would be tougher for us on the boards, and we've beaten them twice, so that's kind of a mental thing. Kansas, I think, has like a pro team. They can hurt you in so many different... We're just happy to be going there. We'll get ready. Whoever it is, we're going to enjoy this right now.
Mike, congratulations.
Thanks, Gary, very much.
Let's go to Doug Collins.
With me, Mark Alloway. Mark, I thought the key in the ball game today, you guys really got on the offensive boards early. Just really took it to Navy.
Right. I think the two factors in our game that we've tried to emphasize in the tournament have been our defense and rebounding, especially. We kind of tailed off in the rebounding department towards the end of the season. But like you said, I think the offensive rebounds combined with a good job on the defensive boards really brought us to victory today.
Well, let's take a look at you here scoring against David Robinson. You're going to get great post-up position, a nice pass, and you take it to ball to the basket with great strength there. You can really do it inside or outside.
Well, I had to do it a lot inside these last two games because I haven't been able to hit a jump shot for the last couple games. But, if we can get our inside game working, then that frees things for both Amaker and Dawkins. And when Johnny's on, we're very tough to beat.
Well, I got this guy here beside me. I guess his name is Johnny Dawkins, and he does it all. But, Johnny, the impressive thing, you and Mark Allery, great offensive players, but today I thought you were the key defensively. You had the job on Whitaker. He had the job on Butler. They scored 3 points combined in the first half.
Well, they're great players, and coaches told us to put a lot of pressure on them. Because not only are they great scorers, but they also get the ball inside to David Robinson very well. So we try to put as much pressure on him as possible. Unfortunately, in the first half, we did a great job.
Now, give me your thoughts right now. 4 for 15 in the first half. You come out, hit your first 7 shots of the second half. Are you one of these shooters that has no conscience? You just keep firing it up?
Well, what happened was in the first half, I felt I was a little nervous taking my shot, and going into halftime was a good thing for me because it gave me a chance to settle down, and I came back out very positive. Coach told me to keep on taking my shots and step up with confidence, and I just did that. Unfortunately, they went.
Johnny, I'm going to let you go right now. They're waiting there for you to cut down the last strand of the net. Great luck in Dallas.
Hey, thank you very much. We're going to need it.
Okay, buddy.
A complete victory, 71-50. As Duke is on their way to Dallas. 3 of the spots have been decided. The 4th to follow. Now let's go back to Jim Nance.
All right, thank you, Gary. In a way, Bill, it was Army over Navy today. Mike Krzyzewski, being an old Army man, and you've known him for a long time.
Well, in the old days, when he was struggling at Army, he was Mike Krzyzewski. First couple of years at Duke, he was Mike Krzyzewski. Now that he's winning, he's Krzyzewski. A little lace curtain, but if he wins it all, they can call him anything he wants.
I still prefer Coach K myself.
A lot easier.
Johnny Dawkins, the great All-American from Duke, cutting down the net, and what a super career. He's heading to the Final Four, and deservedly so. We'll go to Kansas City with some pregame interviews. When the Midwest Regional Championship, of course, coming up in just a few moments. We'll have those interviews right after this. Kansas City, and join Brett Musburger and Billy Peck.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. We were with the Kansas Jayhawk assistant coach. He helped them recruit a fellow by the name of Danny Manning. This is his father, Ed Manning. Billy?
Ed is a long way from the days of the Carolina Cougars.
Yeah, you're right there. We moved along pretty well.
One of the things I want to ask, if you were just the father of a great player that Danny is and sitting up in the stands as opposed to being the assistant coach, what would be the difference in your feeling right now? Do you feel you have some control in this ballgame?
Yeah, well, it's like this, when Danny does something wrong, I'm able to just go up to him and tell him exactly what he did wrong. But if you're sitting in the stands, you got to wait till after the game, and it's a big difference. But he and I can communicate really well, and with all the guys, I communicate very well with them. So I can just walk up to Danny and say, hey, look, you got to do this and you got to do that.
So you like the job on the bench a lot better than sitting in the stands?
I love it.
Okay. Ed, will Danny be back in Kansas for sure next year?
Oh, sure, he'll be back. Danny will be back.
All right, thank you very much. Good luck this afternoon.
Thank you.
So it'll be Kansas against North Carolina State, and a short time ago I had an opportunity to talk to State's coach Jim Valvano.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, I'm with Jim Valvano, the coach of North Carolina State, and he and I disagree as to where this game should be played. He wants it on a neutral site. You love this setting like this.
I'm absolutely thrilled to be here among 17,000 Kansans yelling rock, chalk, Jayhawk.
Yeah,
I don't know what it means, but I know it's not wishing me good luck. It's not an Italian saying. I know that.
Now, listen, is your brother really coming down from New York to sit behind the timekeeper over here?
You see him, the guy in the pinstripe suit with the fedora. He goes like that. It looks like in his pocket it's a calculator, really, that he's got there. But the game should be played on neutral sites.
Jim, you were embarrassed by this team earlier this year, back in North Carolina. Have you improved enough now to win the rematch?
I wasn't embarrassed.
You were awful the second half.
They beat us.
I'm just telling the truth.
I wasn't embarrassed. They're a good basketball team. Obviously, they're 30-something and 3, and we were not a very good team at that time. We were mediocre at best. We're a better team now. They're still a great team. We will have to have, as I told you, an heroic effort, you know, a Beowulf El Cid type thing in order to win here in Kansas.
But coaching will prevail?
If we win, that's the name of the game. If we lose it, the talent and the environment was just too great for it.
The referees whistle with the program. But even the technical foul could not derail the Kansas Jayhawks. They moved one step closer to the Final Four, dominating the Spartans in OT. Standing in the Jayhawks' way today is fiery Jim Valvano and North Carolina State. Their road to Dallas began against Iowa. And when the Hawkeyes missed a critical free throw, it was the Wolfpack coming away with the rebound. Their biggest scare came against Arkansas Little Rock. They trailed by 5 in the first overtime, tied the game, and in the second overtime, they pulled away by 14 points. Then in the regional semifinal against Iowa State, North Carolina State held off a late comeback. It was the inside work of Charlie Shackelford and Chris Washburn, which advanced State to the regional final. The dance card is almost full. Only one spot remains in the Final Four, and it'll come from the Midwest Regional. And the winner will travel that yellow brick road next Saturday afternoon, the Reunion Arena, Dallas, Texas.
A sold-out Kemper Arena in Kansas City, Missouri. The Wolfpack of North Carolina State against the Jayhawks of Kansas, the last of 4 regional finals. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I am Brent Musburger. Of course, next Saturday in Dallas, LSU and Louisville in one semifinal. Then it will be Duke against the winner of this game. The setting here, will it be a big advantage for the Jayhawks? Let's bring in Billy Packer and find out.
When they ran on the field, everybody's in red, but they're not for NC State red. This is a Kansas crowd, Brent.
Now, does it work to the disadvantage of Jim Valvano? Is this unfair that he has to play in here? I don't think so.
I think he'd rather have him in Raleigh, I can tell you that.
Now, what about the earlier game that was dominated by Kansas when they played in December?
Well, the first half wasn't bad as far as State was concerned, and they disintegrated in the second half. I think both teams are a lot better now than they were then. NC State, because Shackelford is now playing with Washburn inside, making it tough. Bolton has come along from the outside on the perimeter, so they're a lot better. And I think in the case of Kansas, they've adjusted to Hunter at the point guard now, so they're a lot better. So it should be a lot different game than we saw in Greensboro.
All right, Billy, Kansas is favored, but Jim Valvano always finds a way to be there in the last 3 minutes.
Today's Midwest Regional Final game is sponsored by Hilton. Hilton, America's business address. Mazda Cars and Trucks. The more you look, the more you like Mazda value. And by Hewlett-Packard, the people who...
For Kansas, that forward, a 6'11 sophomore from Lawrence, Kansas, number 25, Danny Manning. For North Carolina State, at forward, a 6'10 freshman from Kinston, North Carolina, number 33, Charles Shackelford. For Kansas, at forward, a 6'5 junior from Omaha, Nebraska, number 44, Ron Kellogg. For North Carolina State, at center, a 6'11 sophomore from Hickory, North Carolina, number 50, Chris Washburn. For Kansas, at center, a 7'1 senior from Wichita, Kansas, number 30, Greg Driley. Carolina State. At guard, a 6'5" senior from Raleigh, North Carolina, number 10, Nate McMillan. For Kansas, at guard, a 6-foot junior from Omaha, Nebraska, number 22, Cedric Hunter. For North Carolina State, at guard, a 6'5" senior from New York, New York, number 31, Ernie Myers. And for Kansas, at guard, a 6'6" senior from Kansas City, Kansas, number 35, Calvin Thompson. And introducing the head coaches for North Carolina State in his 6th season, Jim Valvano. For Kansas in his 3rd season, Larry Brown.
Larry Brown, who has already taken UCLA to the Final Four. Jim Valvano, who won it with State, and they're both ready to go.
That's not what you want to do if you're Hunter. You don't want to foul or stop the clock.
And he stopped at the 149 mark.
McMillan on the line, 73% free throw shooter. Junior college transfer from Chelan Junior College. Played in Raleigh in high school. Said he often dreamed about getting an opportunity to play for NC State.
Has 7 assists to go along with his 8 points here this afternoon.
Good follow through and a good lean. You know, that little lean is what put it in, kind of like the guy that makes the putts. Long.
It'll go to Kansas. Washburn coming around behind Dreiling.
That wasn't a good block out by Dreiling. Washburn could have picked one off, and he had good position inside. Jim Valvano does not want his team to come out and pressure Kansas. Kansas going to take a little time off the clock.
Valvano wants it a little bit tighter there, pack it in.
Now with the 3-point lead, Kansas really has 2 possession advantage here. State really needs that ball twice.
On the shot clock. To Dreiling, there's the hook.
Give him a lot of credit. He came to the ball. Well, when he pins you behind like that, he really does it. Tough shot again.
In and out.
What a rebound.
He was fouled, and Jim Valvano wanted a timeout.
Greg Dreiling doing a super job off the board.
Dreiling's presence inside has been the big difference in this game the last few minutes.
It sure has. He stayed out of foul trouble in the second half. There's a great two-handed rebound. Instead of trying to go up and take it with one, he grabbed it with 2, and it was all his.
That's 11 rebounds to go along with his 16 points.
Greg's married, was one of the great players in the history of Wichita high school basketball. Aubrey Sherrod, and he went to Wichita State, and then he transferred over here to Kansas.
And he'd like to take a road trip to Dallas this week.
Palm of basketball with his little finger and thumb. That's how big his hands are. A lot of emotion. He's worked hard to get here. Take this to the hoop, try to draw the foul.
Short. Dreiling again, and Myers fouled it.
Ernie Myers did the right thing, though. With the clock down under a minute, you're trying to go in for the 3-point play when you're down 6. And Dreiling again doing a super job on the board.
So the Jayhawks and their fans can start packing their bags.
It's been a long time since the Big 8 sent a team to the Final Four.
42 seconds, and Dallas, here we come.
Larry Brown got there. Hey, he's going to be talking about a team that he faced when he was at UCLA, Louisville.
will be in that Final Four. So I think back to that game. And UCLA, of course, a Cinderella. We had 3 teams in that Final Four that were non-seeded teams. Iowa, Purdue, and UCLA. The motion's starting to tell, Brent. Riling's talking to himself going down court.
Myers out of bounds, goes over to Kansas.
Now I think fans could probably appreciate what Jim Valvano's tried to do with this team. You see when they get in a running game, it's just not their type of ball club. Hunter coming out, Turgeon in. The move here is Hunter not a good free throw shooter, Turgeon in.
And Kelsey Weems checks into the game for North Carolina State.
Hunter didn't quite meet his 10 assist mark, but he's got 9. All that Ernie Meyer could do is commit the foul.
Donald Thompson at the 35-second mark with an 8-point lead. And the disappointment along with the bubble gum.
Well, NC State will have a lot of players back next year. They'll lose McMillan. They'll lose Myers. Everybody else will be returning. Kansas is a young team when you really look at it. They're going to lose 3 outstanding seniors, but they'll be up in the top of the heap next year also. Should be a top 10 type ball club. Looks like Larry Brown's using Hunter on defense and using Turgeon to come in on the offensive end. Kansas a very good free throw shooting team, almost 72% as a club. Larry Brown flips his program, not quite like he did the other night. This one a little bit more joyous occasion. He knows he's on his way now. Negro walk. Well, you start thinking about Larry Brown. He's had success on a lot of levels. Played on the Olympic team.
Great ovation for Dreiling, who certainly was the most valuable player in the last 5 minutes.
Outstanding game.
Turgeon is fouled by Del Negro at the 24-second mark.
And of course, fouling is what helped NC State on their march to 1983. You can remember that final with Houston. The Pepperdine game. The Virginia game. The Vegas game. They were down 12 late in that ball game. If there ever was a storybook that could be written, Jim Valvano was part of one of the all-time stories in the NCAA tournament.
But Larry Brown is a great story, too.
No question.
Got UCLA to the Final Four. Now he's going to take Kansas there. You're well aware of his story, of course, the much-traveled Larry Brown. Coached the Denver Nuggets, the New Jersey Nets. There are a lot of rumors about him leaving here at Kansas and going someplace, but judging from our conversation, he's satisfied, at least for the time being, right there in Lawrence. Bolton.
Oh, line drive. Jim Valvano used one of his last.
So we'll be right back as Kansas will conclude its march to Dallas. And as Larry Brown and the Jayhawks celebrate, let us thank these folks who brought this game to you this afternoon and all of their fine tournament coverage so far. Kevin O'Malley, the executive producer of NCAA Sports. Game ably produced by Robert Stenner and directed today by Peter Bleckner. And, of course, the rest of the crew that associated with them so well here this weekend.
The Chevy MVPs now from the Midwest Regional Final for North Carolina State. Chris Washburn with 17 points. And Big Greg Dreiling, so impressive down the stretch as Kansas outscored the Wolfpack 23-10 the rest of the way. Dreiling, 19 points, 12 rebounds on the afternoon. We'll be right back.
Well, they are continuing to cut the net down here in Kansas City. And Larry Brown, congratulations. A great job by his team this year.
Oh, I'm really proud. I'm so happy for Greg. You know, we needed it against such a big team, and he played great, and that was such a big factor.
You told us this morning, Larry, that he was going to play well today. What made you get to have that feeling?
Well, I thought they had big people, and he felt so good about the overtime and the way he contributed. I just knew he'd be ready.
You did a good job in the first half when you had foul trouble picking up, and you knew you were going to have to save those fellas. Manning on the bench, Dreiling on the bench. You seemed to have a lot of confidence that you could keep the game close, but take it in the second half.
Well, we controlled the tempo, Billy. We normally don't play that way, but I thought with our better players on the bench that we had to take time off the clock. Unfortunately, they kept throwing it to Chris Piper with 8 seconds to go, but I'm just so happy for this team.
Greg, you've got a big guy with you over there.
I sure do. Greg Dreiling, congratulations. You were certainly the MVP the last few minutes of that game.
Well, thank you very much. The guys just kept going to me. I've had not too good a tournament so far, but they have a lot of faith. They kept coming in. It's a good night today.
Even with the 4 fouls, you continue to be aggressive.
Well, I'll tell you that the paint was going to be mine the last 4 minutes. I was going to get every rebound and stick back every missed shot. It's just a great game.
Calvin Thompson, what are your feelings now as you head to Dallas in the Final Four?
Hey, this is a wonderful feeling. You know, we were a little down at halftime, but we say, hey, fellas, we're up 2 points. You know, there's something to be proud of. This is where we want to be. It's a great feeling to be heading to Dallas.
All right, so indeed, the Jayhawks of Kansas head to Dallas.
Ryan Kellogg, super job. I know all you 3 seniors have to feel awful good winning the championship here in your conference and then coming and working your way to Dallas.
Well, this definitely is a good feeling. You know, before the season started, our destination was to make it to Dallas, and now we're going that way, and we're all happy for it.
Good ball club. You'll be facing a Duke team you've seen before.
Well, yeah, that was our first loss early in the season, and Duke's a good ball club. You know, we just have to go up there and do what we do best.
All right, Danny Manning, congratulations. You're headed for the Final Four.
It's a great feeling. You know, we worked really hard for this, and we made a commitment to each other. We came through, and it's just a great feeling.
So the Final Four is all set. Kansas will go down to take on Duke. It'll be Louisville against LSU. For Billy Packer, I'm Brent.
The LSU Tigers. How did it happen? How does a team with a 9-9 conference record, loser of 8 of its last 13 games before tournament time, loser of several players through the year due to academic, recruiting, and injury problems, and if all that wasn't enough, how about a chicken pox epidemic on top of everything? Doesn't sound like a team of destiny, does it? Well, for starters, they do it with emotion, something Coach Dale Brown knows everything about.
There was an electricity, there was a chemistry, there was a feeling, there was a touch. You felt it. You felt it in the dressing room, and they believed in us, and they stuck together. And for anybody that's having problems, if you persevere, Alan, I tell you, you'll get guided. Good things happen.
They do it as a team. Against Georgia Tech, Don Redden and Derek Taylor were incredible from the outside. Center John Williams was a non-factor, only 5 points. Then against Kentucky, Taylor goes cold, missing all his shots, winds up on the bench. Williams comes back to life, 16 points, and Ricky Blanton takes over down the stretch.
Everybody's accepted their role, and this is a very unselfish team, and it shows because we're going to Dallas, and this is the best basketball we've ever played since I've been here.
We still haven't had 5 people out there playing to everyone's capabilities out there. Once we get 5 people playing together out there and playing their hardest, I think that would be hard to stop.
Finally, let's talk about this Blanton fellow. All Blanton has done in the tournament is outplay 3 of the best inside men in college basketball. William Bedford of Memphis State, John Sally of Georgia Tech, and Kenny Walker of Kentucky.
I don't mind going out there doing the blue-collar work for this team, and that's what we need. We have guys who can hit jumpers, who can score inside, and I think to be successful, you need the chemistry, and you need to know your role, and everyone needs to know it. And I found my role, and I think everyone on this team's found their role.
The final credit goes to Brown, who kept this team believing in itself even when they lost 2 big men. He reshaped them and motivated them during the slump until they finally came around. Alan Massengale for the college basketball.
The Cardinals were able to control the backboard and the game and put themselves into yet another Final Four for Coach Denny Crum, trip number 6. He began back in '72. He won the championship back in 1980, and for Louisville, their 4th trip this decade. Here's Jim Gray.
The Louisville Cardinals have been able to control the backboards, and that's the main reason they have advanced into the Final Four. In their game against a much more physical Auburn club, the Cardinals outboarded the Tigers 37-27, with 13 of those coming off the offensive end.
That's something we had to do. And late in the game, when we went to the zone, we started to get more rebounds also. We were able to stay inside, tighten it up, push the big men outside, and enabled us to get a lot more rebounds.
Opponents find Louisville such a difficult foe because each of their 5 starters are offensive threats, as all average in double figures.
That's been the mark of this team the last month of February and through this tournament, is that they've been able to rise to whatever occasion and whatever test came their way and play well enough to win. And I think that's the mark of senior leadership and good balance, which we have.
You know, Mill and Bill, the All-Americans on the team, and Purvis going to be one by the time he's a senior. So long as we win, I'm going to be happy with what we do. I'm just out there trying to contribute and help the team win.
By advancing into the Final Four, one would assume that jubilation might reign supreme for Louisville, but that isn't the case at all.
The Cardinals took their victory in stride. Yes, they went through the ritual of cutting down the nets, but it was almost as though they were just going through the motions, perhaps wanting to save their celebration for their next stop in Texas.
I don't think a lot of them realizes what they've done. You know, I've been there my freshman year. I was lucky enough to get to the Final Four, and you know, I kind of realize what it is to accomplish something like this. I think the other guys will realize that, you know, that hasn't been there before when we're going home on the plane or something like that.
Well, I think we're saving our celebration because, you know, they feel the same way I feel. You know, we've accomplished to get to the Final Four, and now we want to win it. I think once we win it, we will have the loudest Final Four victory locker room you ever saw.
But that's still 2 games away, so for now it's simply on to Dallas for the Cardinals, who will be making their 7th Final Four appearance, and will also be taking with them a 15-game winning streak. But to them, that's not a cause for celebration, at least not yet. In Houston, I'm Jim Gray for the College Basketball.